All right, welcome back, everyone, after lunch break. This is an open period where we can talk about whatever we want. And I would like to share about kind of some thoughts I have that might be the beginning for a new story for humanity. And my premise starts with, well, I start with the premise that humanity could reconfigure ourselves to be like an ant colony or a beehive, right? Where all the members are all pulling in the same direction. It's just one big team ant colony, right? Like the ants do it. You don't see individual ants trying to fight over a scrap or hoard from each other. No. It's just a river, right? It's just one big coordinated, harmonious community. And so in order for humanity to make that transition to become a colony of humans rather than a species of a bunch of individuals, right, who are fundamentally competing with each other, right? I mean, if we just take the hypothetical scenario that Dharmendra, you and I are space travelers, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and we just land on Earth, boom, in April 3rd, 2020. And we look around and it's like, all right, seems to be a reasonably intelligent species. Why are they playing a game where everyone is everyone else's enemy, fundamentally, or competitor? What? Right? And so you and I might go around shaking people saying, wake up. This is the stupidest imaginable game. You know, I was talking the other day with, I forget who, you may have even been in the conversation, where I was talking about how, remember when we were kids and we'd play Monopoly? And like, it might be a sunny, beautiful Saturday outside, but we're inside playing Monopoly. And we get really into it, really attached. And finally, at the end of it, you know, there's a winner, or it's a stalemate and we all decide to quit or whatever. But whenever we get up and walk away, didn't you ever have that feeling of, A, kind of icky, and B, how the heck did I just waste several hours doing this pointless thing, right? Well, thank goodness, you know, we could walk away from it, go outside, play Frisbee, do something fun, and, you know, shake it off. But being born into this world is like being born into the middle of a real life Monopoly game, right? And either you're born into a wealthy family where you're sucking the life-giving resources from those who are deprived, because that's the way the game works, or you're born poor and you're getting deprived, right? But in either case, there's zero fun, zero redemption. It's just the wrong game, fundamentally, right? And sure, there are those who point out to, well, but look at all the things that have been developed within this capitalist system, right? Well, there's two things there. Number one, that presupposes that it couldn't have been developed any other way than people competing with each other, all right? Which is pretty absurd, because it seems like we get a lot more done when we cooperate than when we compete. Number two, this capitalist free market system has resulted in and continues to result in the absolute destruction of life on Earth, including human life. Now, the destruction isn't complete yet, so people are focused on, you know, again, all that's been developed with all this economic growth, all this technology and tools and this and this and that. Anyway, with that as a clumsy starting point, it seems, well, now shift gears and take a look at the coronavirus, right? if we want to stop the coronavirus, the Chinese have already shown us how to do it. You deliver food to everyone so that they don't have to go out and get food, either by going out to work so you can bring home the bacon, or going out to beg, steal, whatever, or even just going out to shop. All those involve going out, right? Versus if you stay home because you have to, and we'll bring you the food, we can stop the spread that way. That would require, obviously, a massive coordinated effort on the part of who else? Humans, to design all these systems and processes to take the food from the farms to the cities and towns, process them, package them, whatever. I mean, when I say process, I mean in benevolent ways, of course. We either deliver the ingredients for people to cook at home, or we prepare the food and deliver them prepared food that's just ready to eat, or heat and eat, or whatever the case. But I don't see any more effective way than delivering food to people so that they can stay home, right? That's the imperative, for everyone to stay home so we can defeat the virus. But for humanity to organize itself, and welcome back, Emery, for humanity to organize herself in such a way that we make taking care of people and taking care of the planet the primary objective of the economy, right? To do that would be to completely turn on its head the whole system, the current economic system, and its foundation, and the very object of the game itself. The object of the current game, of the current economic modality, is hoarding. Accumulate as much as you can for yourself at the expense of everyone else, and crucially, at the expense of Mother Earth and all of our brother and sister species. So, Emery, we're just speculating, what would it take for us to transform into a society that actually is a caretaker species, caring for each other, our fellow humans, but also caring for all our brother and sister species. So, I mean, that very premise that food would be made a basic human right and delivered to everyone would seem to completely undermine the capitalist system, because it's like, hey, if I'm getting food, why would I need to go out and work, right? Would we do it as a temporary thing just to eliminate the coronavirus, and then once it's sufficiently eliminated or under control, or vaccines exist or whatever, then we go back to business as usual, right? That seems like, that actually seems like a bit of a harder problem. Well, not necessarily, but it's just a very different approach than, do we finally make a radical transition to making food, nutritious, vegan, whole plant-based food, a basic human right? Do we make that transition, right? Or do we keep the old system, right? Okay. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome to the Collective Intelligence Block Party. So, we're talking about delivering food to all people, whole food, plant-based diet to all people is a basic human right. Initially spurred on by the coronavirus and the imperative to stop the coronavirus by delivering food to people's homes, but longer term, right? Do we maintain food as a basic human right, right? For me, that's been one of my life dreams. How do we end hunger, right? And malnutrition. And with vegan food delivery, we have an opportunity to solve three problems at once: hunger and malnutrition, finally achieving a vegan world, and eliminating the coronavirus. So for me, it is an absolute no-brainer. We cannot go on living in a chaotic society where everyone needs to leave their home to get food, other than those who have stockpiled enough, but that's a small minority. Everyone else needs to go out to get food. Oh, or have food delivered to you if you have the money. But even then, what are the safety standards for the Uber driver, for the restaurant, etc.? Right? It seems obvious that the way to handle this is through a centrally coordinated system with extremely high food safety and sanitation standards, so that we stop the spread of the virus through the food supply chain. Emery had an idea: everyone takes a turn to deliver food. That could be. But you see how it beckons for a complete redefinition and redesign of who we are, what our priorities are, and what game we're here to play. Are we here to play the game of hoarding, or are we here to play a different game? If so, what? We know that hoarding leads to omnicide, right? Hoarding within a money-based free market capitalist system has also led to tremendous overshoot in exploitation of resources, in human population growth, in just the destruction of life on Earth, period. So, hey, Jackie, welcome back, sister. We are recording and live streaming, and we're exploring, we're kind of building off of the previous discussion and saying, what would it take for humanity to reorganize ourselves around the imperative of producing and delivering nutritious vegan foods to all people all around the world, right? And, let's just say we start out doing this because of the coronavirus, but then after the coronavirus has been eradicated, what next? Do we go back to the old system? I would hate that, right? Let's finally make the transition to a system where food is nutritious vegan food is a basic human right. Welcome back, Cesare. All right. And Emery writes, cooking together, eating together, taking out the garbage together. We're talking about the eradication of the coronavirus through the mechanism of delivering food to all people, healthy vegan food to all people, thus eliminating the need for people to have to leave their homes, right? But if we can do that on a short-term basis, why not do it indefinitely? Make nutritious food a basic human right. I mean, the fact that food is stored under lock and key, and in general, the only way to get food is to cough up money, right? That is a formula for disaster under our present circumstances. I mean, more generally, it's been an ongoing disaster, but now it's an extremely acute disaster, especially from the standpoint of humans. So, for me, it's obvious this is a shift we have to make. We have to make a shift fundamentally from a game of 8 billion people all competing with each other to hoard, where Mother Earth and our brother and sister species pay the ultimate price. And of course, humanity herself will pay the ultimate price, especially with planetary overheating and the destruction of life generally. We're Humpty Dumpty at the top of the food chain, preparing for a really bad fall. So, I mean, for me, it's just obvious we need to make this transition from a competitive game to a game of cooperation. right? And I believe that if we jump in now and do that as a species and take care of our brother and sister humans, and then in the process of going vegan, we take care of our brother and sister species generally, that I believe that will cause or catalyze a spiritual transformation where people will suddenly experience all this generosity, the generosity of Mother Earth, the generosity of other humans, the generosity of plants to nourish us. And we'll say, wow, well, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that was possible. So, you know, now, so let's suppose, okay, great. Let's suppose all this is possible. How do we achieve it, right? How do we actually do it? And that for me is where collective superintelligence steps in, right? Because it's kind of like one of those three-dimensional geometric puzzles where it starts out in one configuration and then it's in totally a different configuration, like a Rubik's Cube. It's like, how did you do that? Well, it was done with intelligence, right? And obviously the amount of intelligence required to transform a Rubik's Cube is quite different than the amount of intelligence required to transform the entire planet and our entire species from a species defined by more for me, or a game defined by more for me, to a game defined by compassion, and us being a caretaker species, caring for each other and for all of our brother and sister species. So
I have a couple of points I'd like to share on all that, if you're ready for that, or if you want to carry on, I don't know.
No, go for it, Dharmender. Would love to hear from you.
So I really like what you're proposing. And then when you get to the how, it seems as though we're going to need a society composed of people that are a lot more awake than the average person is right now, in order to have the integrity to carry out what you're suggesting. Because I wouldn't trust for, half a breath putting that kind of a plan into just what exists in the world right now. It's like we almost need a society that has spent some time working on like this group. But I mean, it obviously have to be bigger, and there obviously have to be people that are in positions in the world that need to come to these kind of realizations and to these kind of interactions and these kind of connections and this quality of brotherhood, sisterhood we share in these meetings. So as always, it comes back to who the heck is gonna pull this off, because as you say, everybody's so deeply conditioned by competition, by hoarding, by mine, by I got mine, I don't care about anybody else. I have neighbors that have told me that. I say, well, what about other people? I mentioned that word, and they go, I don't care about other people. I only care about me. And they're just straight out about it. And that's, by the way, a Trump supporter. So that can explain a lot right there. Are we recording yet? Did you start recording? Good. All right, because I want to make sure that gets in there. But yeah, so it's just interesting. It's like we want to create the society where we feed everybody to begin with, which I think is the basic first step that really needs to break the hold the power structure has on humanity. Because it's just, if we don't do that, if people don't have enough to eat, forget about spirituality. They're just trying to find the next meal. There's no spirituality for people who have not enough to eat. It doesn't exist. There's no way. What energy do they have that requires extra energy above and beyond your ordinary everyday energy to actually get anywhere with spirituality. You have to make super effort. You have to go beyond your ordinary everyday efforts, which everybody's capable of making in the world. They can make their everyday efforts and go to work and do whatever. But then you want to jump into spirituality. Well, now you have to do an hour meditation day or something else, or 2 hours of this, or other things beyond just your ordinary day. And you have to find time to do that. And that to me is like the reality of well, I don't care how, I don't care how good the ideas are, how enlightening they are. If you put it in a society like the ones that we all exist in right now, they're just going to produce the same results they've always produced, which is nothing. And you're going to still have the same corrupt people taking advantage of the system. So first of all, you have to eliminate the corrupt individuals in a circle of people where there is no corrupt intent or corrupt individuals. So that's really the beginning of it, is a group of people who have integrity, and can act on what they say for the benefit of all beings everywhere, and truly mean it, and act in that way, instead of talk about it. But that has to come from a deep self-knowledge, a deep understanding of who you are. Because the minute something comes up you're not familiar with and causes you to react, your whole intention may just get blown out of the water. And we all know how that goes sometimes when we plan for something and maybe something comes in we didn't expect, and next thing you know, that plan is out the window. Right now the coronavirus has thrown all our plans out the window. So how do you like that one? But this is a great time actually for people, just who they exist with at home or whatever, to maybe start to find a way to connect again. There's plenty of time to meditate, Lord knows that's true. And then there's also people that are lucky enough to do what we're doing, which is kind of like putting the two together, relating in a real, honest, and even dare I say, meditative way, where we consider what we say, where we come from our heart, where we're not just looking to get something out of it. We're all sharing, we're all giving of our energy here, you know. And those are some of the qualities I see that are going to be necessary in a kind of society that's going to even begin to have any hope of carrying forth something where we have enough compassionate individuals and can make something happen to change the way the power structures, hoard, so that, to the extreme detriment of 2/3 of the planet. 2/3 of the planet is not can't even get close to what we're doing. They're all poor. They don't have enough to eat. 2/3 of the planet doesn't have enough to eat. And that's just like, holy cow, what kind of a planet are we living on, where the vast majority of people can't even think about spirituality or collective intelligence or any of these things? Forget about it. They're like, where's my next meal? I live in such a war impoverished, or just remote, and no civilization. And they, everything, their whole day and night is concerned with just survival, how to find the next meal, whether they got to go out and hunt for it or whatever they got to do, or go out and do some kind of cultivation, whatever. But that's their whole time is that, you know. So yeah, I hear what Cesar is saying about the International Logic Party, but there's also other parties like this one, and a lot of other parties. So all those parties need to come together. That's the point. It's like everybody's got everybody's nailing something. Everybody I look at here in this meeting, and some I don't know, but everybody I've met so far is doing something like that in the world already. We're like, James is doing this. I do my meditation thing. Jackie and Myra are doing their stuff. Melissa's starting to do stuff with the vegan world, and does other stuff anyway. And then James and Stephanie and and Imri and all of it. It's like we're all doing something, already. So it's just a matter of, and we're starting to do it. We're starting to find ways to pool our resources and come together and coordinate and bring together all our different events in one place. Like Cesare suggested, we create this new website where we can all post everything. And that's like a good way to start, and but yeah, that's truly the thing about feeding everybody. That's really the first step. If we can't get everybody taken care of, and I would even say shelter too, food and shelter, those should be two human rights. With the technology we have on this planet, we could easily do that. In fact, I've looked into it time and again, and with the technology we have, the whole planet could make 100 grand a year. I mean, think of a planet where everybody's making 100 grand a year. Geez, what a planet we'd have. Be a very different planet, I mean, and that's just the way the system is now. But if it functioned in the way, not the way it's functioning now, where everybody was taken care of. But then if we had that possible and everybody had that, we'd probably change the system and go to a system of meritocracy, which I hope we get to. I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetime though. But you have to earn. You have to earn, by contributing, and the more you contribute, and the more people it impacts positively, you know, the more resources you can have to continue doing that. It's like whatever resources you get, it has to be equal to the amount you give, you know, and that's kind of like a way to start to see how do we exchange, you know, resources together and goods together, and how do we do that? We don't need money. We just need a system of meritocracy. And ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of government, I'm totally for conscious anarchy. Let's get people in. Let's get an enlightened society that where everybody's awake enough. I don't need to be ruled by anybody. I can figure out my own way of being. But I would like to see a whole bunch of people come together like that and create, and then out of that, when we start taking care of people, we also empower them so that they become self-empowered, and they look at the world around them and they find ways to contribute that makes sense, you know. And it also makes sense that we all contribute something to the whole of the things we all share, the roads, whatever. It's obvious we all have to contribute to that. It's obvious we all have to contribute to healthcare, basic certain necessities. We all need to contribute to that. But wouldn't it be amazing if we could do it out of our own intelligence instead of laws and being forced and being coerced and being threatened with jail or worse, you know, to you know, make people do that. That to me is like, then we're again working with people that aren't awake. So it's like, somehow, how do we, if we're going to come across as people who are leaders, but leaders who can teach others to lead themselves too, you know, not so much about you know, being leaders and then having people go, yes, 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 sir, okay, you know, do what we say, kind of thing, you know. So anyway, that's just for a start of a discussion.
Beautiful. Well, I'd like to propose just a quick 2-minute break so I can feed the crows and you can all observe. I actually sing them Spanish love songs as I'm feeding them. So this kind of puts into practice what we're talking about. So that is where you will see the crows, and I'll be right back. You will soon see me feeding the crows. So hang in there and I'll be right back.
If we have to watch Jamin feed the crows, then is it really a break?
And I call them Diguang, which in Haida means dear one. So you'll hear me saying, hello, Diguang. All right, here goes. Hello, Diguang. Hello, Diguang. Hello, Diguang. Me pongo a pintarte y no lo consigo. Okay, thank you all for your patience there. And Andrew, what's going on with that mask there, buddy? Yes, you, Andrew. What's going on there? All right. Andrew? Hello? Yeah. So what's up with the mask, Andrew? All right. Well, all right. Anyway, you can hopefully see the crows there in the distance. They're eating. But that's the idea. Let's take care of everyone. Let's feed everyone. People will be so much better off, so much more grateful, and they will live in a world where starvation doesn't exist. People letting other people starve, right, does not exist. That I agree with you, Dharmendra. That for me is the basis, right? And the fact that we don't have it right now and that we've grown up in a world where that doesn't exist, it's almost like we kind of assume that's normal. And if somebody says, oh, we could feed everyone, you know, there's a reaction a lot of people have like, well, that couldn't be. Now let me think why that couldn't be. Oh, I know, because then people wouldn't have any incentive to work. There you go, right? It's like if you're just feeding everyone, why would they work, right? And so, and likewise, if we take care of all the basic human needs, you know, I certainly recognize it as a challenge, right? If all my needs are being met, why do I need to work? Now, consider this. Consider that we have a relationship to work right now that's, you know, none of us, I mean, of the jobs, careers, businesses out there, none of them are particularly appealing except for, you know, some really cool like yoga teaching, meditation leading, things like that, Tai Chi, etc. You know, healing arts, art, period, etc. But, you know, the vast majority of work is kind of like, this is something I don't want to do, but I have to do it in order to eat, in order to survive. So I'm going to do it. All right. What if we had a whole different relationship to work, right? So Jackie, when you're taking care of your kids, you're working. I can see you, you're busy, right? Does it feel like a burden to you? Oh wait, you're on mute, Jackie. You know, it may be an audio thing because I don't see the mute symbol, and I'm sure you don't see it either, but for some reason we cannot hear you. So it could be a microphone, headset. Still can't hear. Okay, well, while you're sorting that out, apparently you can hear me. You can still hear me, right? Okay, good. So actually try saying something, Jackie.
Okay, what about now?
Now we can hear you. Now we
Okay.
can hear you. Yeah, go ahead, Jackie. Go ahead.
So I was just thinking that where you describe that there's some of us that work, that have jobs, but that are incentivized by just making sure that we take care of our needs. And it's the whole human story. We are creators by nature. And if we are taken care of and if we are healthy, when we're at our greatest, we do create. So if our system, has millions of people that don't have any incentive to go to work because they're working in the system, they're not working for themselves, they're not creating, they're not doing something that makes them better, they're not doing something that they feel that they're contributing beauty and healing. You can't tell a yoga instructor that they're not going to go to work. You can't tell them they have to stay home. They will fight everything. A meditation instructor, teachers, people that feel that they're contributing something to the whole from their heart. Those are the natural incentives that we as humans do. How can I help? How can I contribute? How can I be of service? And I get to earn a living doing that. That's our way of being. And the system as it is so many of us don't live that life where we can contribute something and get paid for it. Most of us are just basically doing what we have to do to make sure that our needs are met for our family members. So in the system, I understand why they say, well, if you feed people and you give them, shelter, they won't come to work. Yeah, nobody wants to live in that system. No one wants to exist in that system. It is the system that is not incentivizing people to want to work. But if you have a system where we can all be free to be creative and critical thinkers and be entrepreneurs and we'll have beyond another Renaissance age, an age of enlightenment, where everyone is contributing to the whole from their heart, and then you get paid to just do what you love every day. Imagine like that.
Totally. Like, for example, I imagine that if all work were volunteer, right, that would kind of be the ideal, right? It's like, there's a whole bunch of stuff to do. and here's all the volunteer opportunities, right? Me, I would volunteer to work in a greenhouse with my hands, working with the soil. I've dreamed of doing that, right? But, you know, so that's just an example. Now, what about the jobs that nobody wants to do, right? Well, maybe the trick is, see, I think if we focused on really meeting our needs, our true human needs, not all these made up needs to hoard, I think the amount of work that would be required to sustain us would be much less than 40 hours a week per adult, right? It would, you know, probably be closer to 10 or 20 hours a week. And then you could imagine that if there was some really nasty job like working in the sewer or something like that, first of all, there are probably people who like doing that. But second of all, we could say, look, if the standard is 20 hours a week, sewer work, 10 hours. If you do 10 hours a week, you're good to go for the rest of the week, that sort of thing. Jamin, you're having fun with your hands at the greenhouse. I sure hope you're having fun, because that's 20 hours a week, right, to kind of meet your quota. And if it's, you know, taking care of kids, for example, daycare. I used to be a day camp counselor, and I absolutely loved it. I was so happy, so healthy, so connected to life. Shoot, maybe I'd say, shoot, if I can do that, I'll work 30 hours a week, whatever. So there's got to be ways that we can kind of balance it out. And in fact, it could even be sort of like a market-based system, so that instead of, you know, some administrator like myself saying, well, 10 hours sewer work, 20 hours greenhouse, 30 hours taking care of kids, those are all equivalent, you know, it'd be some sort of a market-based system. So if there's not enough people available to do the sewer work, right, the number of hours would go down, down, down until you get people coming in to sign up for that work, something like that. You know what I mean? So, but again, this is something for collective intelligence, collective superintelligence to figure out, because what we're basically talking about is redesigning and reconfiguring a massive machine, right? It's kind of like taking a big complex airplane, reconfiguring it and turning it into a train or something. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like using all the same parts, using all the same materials. Here we have this massive global economy with all kinds of infrastructure, from roads to railroads to water systems to all this. So it's this incredible asset, right, that we've got. Of course, there's some things that should never have been there in the first place, like nuclear bombs and nuclear power plants, but let's set those aside for the moment and just say, look, how do we reconfigure ourselves and all of our systems of measurement, of fairness, of whatever, so that we and the rest of life can coexist peacefully, happily, harmoniously in the world that we have, with all that we have, right? I mean, think about it. Let's say that we all landed on this planet tomorrow, from some other planet in outer space, and we've been on some long interstellar voyage, and we just land here, and all this stuff is here, right? And we have no concept of ownership or anyone getting more than anyone else. You know, we'd land here, we'd clap our hands, and we say, great, wow, what a cool planet. Oh, well, look at all this infrastructure and stuff. Well, let's get to work. You know, let's organize ourselves to make this work, right? It's kind of like if we all went on a camping trip. Let's just say the 10 of us went on a camping trip, right? And we got to some campsite, and, you know, there's this, that, the other, there's whatever is there, and whatever we brought, we'd make it work, right? We'd say, okay, what do we need to do? Well, who wants to set up the campsite? Well, maybe Dharmendra and I, you know, volunteered to do that. And we're digging and putting up stakes and tents and all that. You know, who wants to take care of the kids in the meantime? Make sure they stay out of trouble or danger or whatever. Oh, okay, maybe Jackie and Melissa. Okay, great. You know, and we would just divvy it up and do it. We can totally do that with 8 people. We can also totally do it with 8 billion people. Now, it's going to take a bit more coordination and planning, and dare I say intelligence to do it with 8 billion people, but that's what we're right on the cusp of, is collective superintelligence. This network of conversations with all the tools and features that we've been talking about, right? To intelligently redesign the whole system. Okay, got a couple of hands up. Dharmendra, followed by Cesari. Go ahead, Dharmendra.
Yeah. So when we're really starting to dig down into this, it always makes me want to jump into, okay, so let's get real and let's start facing this. So for me, there's always 3 questions in human existence that make it so we land on planet Earth and with our eyes and ears open and all our other senses, and we go, here we are, and this is what's in front of us. So first question is, who am I? What am I bringing to the table? What are my supernatural abilities? What are my siddhis, if you like? I mean, you got to know what your knacks are, because that's what we need. If we're really going to transform a system, we have to come from the highest in ourselves. So who we are is always about our highest in ourselves. But where am I? Oh, I'm on this planet. There's a lot of dark stuff here. This is where all the shadows come in. It's like I live in a world with all kinds of other beings. The ones, unfortunately, that control the resources are very dark, and it's casting a very dark shadow across the planet, and 2/3 of the planet doesn't have enough to eat and can't even get into these conversations. And then third, then what am I doing here? If this is who I am with my siddhis and I'm in this world of shadows, well, what are my gifts? So what can I bring what can I really do here? What can I contribute? Because that's what it's about. And so I see that when we bring up these discussions, it's like, I want to go, okay, so each of us must have something that is really unique that we're bringing to the table, right? And then we have to, and with that settling into that place of our accelerated collective evolution, where we really reach for who we are, for our spirit, and then we settle into the shadow realm, and we go, okay, here I am with this, and then we go, okay, so what are we up against? What are we up against? If in order to realize what you say, what are we up against? There's a lot of things we're up against. One of which might be, right now we're just a small community that's just starting to grow, and we're just getting to know each other, and we're starting to put our feelers out for what is needed out there and these kind of things. And we're coming up against, well, first of all, it seems like we're going to need some kind of material resources if we want to do anything on a bigger scale. And so we need to have people that are aligned with the kind of vision that we're creating, that are also in tune with their own spirit, and they're also aware of what planet they're on and the shadows that are in front. Just for example, and then once we step into that and we acknowledge and we get clear, each one of us, with standing in our spirit, what's how that spirit can address the shadow realm, what would be the best way. That's where gifts come out. Then we can say, okay, Jamin, you've got this incredible ability to do this. Boom. Dharmendra, you've got this going on. Imre, Jackie, Cesare, James, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we go and we start to I want to say, exfoliate from that central position we each stand in, of what is our most powerful way to address this situation, each one of us. Because I'm trying to stay away from my usual format of let's go through a shadow gift, and starting to try and apply it to an actual scenario here, that this is how I see that we've got to know who we are. If we don't know who we are, then there really is no discussion, period. There's just no discussion, because we're being run by something. We're not the master of the house. Something, some ideology or conditioning or something in the background is at the base level is motivating all our actions, whether it's competition or any number of things. But it's an egotistical framework that says I'm separate, not connected. That's what the ego is based on: separation, not connectedness. So we have to get past that. We have to own, what if I was leaving the world right now, what would I hope I had left the world with by my presence being here? What could I have shared that could have impacted the world in a way that's beneficial? And that's where you can start to say, so that's who I am. That's who I am. That is the essence of what I want to give, right? So I settle into that, and then I look at the world around me and I say, okay, well, with that, what am I designed? What kind of a shadow am I? What kind of shadows have I gone through in my life to get to that place? to really make it practical. What challenges did I have to overcome where that who I am was constantly challenged to come out? And when it came out, what kind of gifts were there? What are the things I found that I'd love to do if we want to get back to a world that's based on art and creativity and culture? And we just have to, the minimum amount we have to do is a couple hours a day, and that's all it would take for the practical stuff. And so, okay, we each got to do 2 or 3 hours a day of some kind of basic practical stuff. The rest of the time we could spend doing what Jackie's talking about, being yoga teachers, meditation teachers, all the things that we really like to do. You know, it would just make the world such a simpler place. And so anyway, to me, to really start to enter into, if we want to get, you know, real about what you're mentioning, I just, that's the way I kind of perceive it. You know, it's like, who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing here? You know, what is my spirit doing in this shadow realm? And how does my soul grow by sharing my gifts? You know, spirit, shadow, soul. I mean, the 3 S's. You know, it kind of make up. You know, it's a good way to look at it. It's also the law of 3, which is the most original law, which all the other laws come from: Father, Son, Holy Spirit, however you want to call it. You know, Buddha, Sangha, Dhamma. You know, whatever, the 3, or alchemy, meditation, and love, whatever. You know, different ways of saying the 3. So how do we, you know, how do we stand behind, and how do we, you know, that's even more than that. In these kind of meetings we're creating, when people come in and we're each one of us in that facet of ourselves, that diamond aspect of ourselves. I love to use the word diamond, the spirit reflected in a diamond, you know, that because we're a material creature too. So we're that diamond, and then we have the spirit come through that just lights us up. You know, and then once we're lit up, we can see the places in us. This is just a metaphor. We can see the places in us where the shadow's touching the hardest. Well, that's where our gifts need to go. Wherever the shadow's touching us the most, where the spirit doesn't get to come through, that's where our soul has to grow, because the soul is the channel of our spirit into our body, to use that metaphor. And so for me, I guess the most important thing is the space of the spirit of connectedness and caring and compassion and love has to be like paramount to this meeting, and to any meeting that, you know, like what I do, all the meetings that are connected with the vegan world, the vegan lifestyle. It has to be paramount. It has to be number 1. It has to rise out of a sense of compassion, but that compassion is so that we can awaken to our deepest truth in ourselves in the most positive sense. In the sense of, because siddhas, or the spirit, there's no negative there. It's either neutral or yes. That's all there is for spirit. There's no, technically speaking, a pure spirit, there's no shadow, you know. It's only when we enter into a body, and we have a body and a mind, and the body's going one way, the mind's going the other way, that it creates this weird friction that, you know, has been taken advantage of by the powers that be and used against us to manipulate it into these weird, strange forms of competition and all these other things, because it's easy once you're already in that place to take advantage of that, to exploit it. And so they're just doing what they could just see. Obviously, we were already doing anyway out of ignorance, because we didn't know any better. But now we do. Now we're waking up to that fact, you know. So perhaps the first thing, and when we stand in our spirit, is to acknowledge that we've been taught to be our own worst enemy, to fight, for the, you know, we're never going all at once in the same direction, you know. But then I know that all of us, each one of us here, has found something in our life where everything is in the same direction. Everything is heading down the same track. And like I say, whether it's the yoga teacher, the meditation teacher, the artist, the dancer, the architect, you know, all the things of beauty that we can create, all the stuff that truly beautifies the world and makes it worth living here, makes people want to live here, and makes people want to be a part of this. Because if we create enough beauty, everybody's going to be excited to be here and want to contribute. So when you get these houses and you're feeding these people, and if they start seeing that beauty going on around them, I can't imagine anybody just sitting back going, I don't want to do that. They're going to be going like, holy cow, give me a paintbrush, or where's the dance studio, or where's the gymnasium, or whatever, you know, whatever it is that they want to participate in. So that's just my way of kind of getting maybe a little more real about how we're opening this up. And I really like where you started it, Jamin. And That's my contribution at this.
Love it, Dharmendra. Love where you're taking it, brother. Oh my goodness. So amazing. What a great conversation. All right. And I can see Jackie and Stephanie just beaming. All righty. Cesare, you've been patiently waiting with your hand up. Thank you for your patience. And James, thank you for the thumbs up. And take it away, Cesare.
Well, so about making a better world here, let me show you how, what's the first step you can take in doing that. This is my ideological profile in Igora. These are my ideas, and this goes to your point, Dharmendra, about who are you, getting to know yourself. Well, this is how I get to know myself. These are my ideas. This is what's in my head. This is what I represent. And hey, guess what? It's all available for you to get to know me. So if you want to know what's in my head, you know, go ahead and study up on that. That's why it's there, so people can learn from it, and people can help me refine my ideas. And I'll be happy to help you refine your ideas. But anyways, I'm moving. So the idea that I wanted to bring your attention to is right here. It's in the 16-point position of my ideological profile. I'm going to open this up here because some ideas are longer than what's displayed. I'm going to go ahead and, I mean, you can read this idea yourself, but I'm going to read it because I think it's important that an idea is read. Universal basic income. In our sophisticated society with a complex economy, we recognize that while we must incentivize people to be productive members of our society, the value of the contributions of some of those members to society cannot easily be gauged by their activity in the market. For example, parents, artists, philosophers, community servants, etc. Furthermore, we recognize that markets can fail to reward people despite their best efforts to be productive. For this reason, we should institute a universal basic income, or UBI. The amount of this UBI should be dependent on the size of the economy so as to never disincentivize higher productivity in our society. That's the text of the idea. There's a lot that can be discussed about it, which I'm happy to discuss with you right now. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you. So I support this idea. This idea is in the 16-point position of my ideological profile, which means I'm giving this idea 16 points right now. But this idea actually has 90 points because I'm not the only person who supports this idea. Other people also support this idea. They have it in their ideological profiles. I don't know if you can, I'm trying to move this bar with the display. Can you all see the display of your faces across my screen, or is it just on my screen?
Just on your screen, each of us controls, because since you're screen sharing, like I have our faces kind of minimized, so I can really only see your face, but I can click on one button and I see a ribbon of several or a grid, but in any case,
Okay.
it's very
Because
small.
I see a ribbon on my screen, and I wasn't sure if you guys are seeing that ribbon also, or how it's being displayed. Anyways, I'm just gonna move it off to the side so it's not annoying me. So this is the idea dominance index of Igora, which shows you how strongly supported all of these different ideas are by the people. And this fucking thing, it's just going crazy. I don't know how to, okay, there we go. I want to minimize this. Okay, here we go. So this is the idea dominance index. Hey, guess what? The #1 idea in the world is that all children should have equal opportunity. I'm not going to read this idea right now unless somebody really wants to hear it. But guess what? People want children to have equal opportunity, including healthcare, education, protection, healthcare. But like I said, the idea that we were looking for is the universal basic income idea. It's right here. It's in third place of all the ideas in the world in Igora. It's in third place with 90 points of support from 6 different people. It's in second, well, it's behind, like I said, the idea of equal opportunity for children and about fairness in economics and government's role in economics. So with your support, this idea can, well, have more points. Along with other ideas, we have all kinds of other really good and important ideas that you can support. But this idea will move up higher. And then guess what? We're going to make political candidates who actually represent people's ideas, and we're going to organize to elect them into public offices in every country. That's the plan. So, but the only way we do that is when people organize behind good ideas. So I'm seeking your support for this idea. But like I said, we can discuss it. If maybe you disagree with the universal basic income, I'm interested to hear why. Because I think that idea it's pretty convincing and pretty compelling. So, yeah, what do you all think about the universal basic income?
Hey, Cesare, I say when you're born, you should be allocated a trust fund, you know, and you use that throughout your life. You get when you're born, you get I don't know, 100 grand, whatever, and you know, you tap into that as you go through life.
Well, I disagree with that. I mean, in a way, the universal basic income is somewhat like what you're talking about, but it's all about the devil is in the details. I just gave you the details of my idea, and I'd be happy to discuss it. I mean, if that's an idea that you want to support, please go ahead and introduce it into the Agora and solicit the support of other people for your idea. But then let's see which idea wins. Because right now, like I said, universal basic income has 6 supporters. It actually has about twice as many supporters because a lot of Agora users have become inactive because they haven't logged in over 23 days. They're presumed dead, essentially, because they very well could be. They could actually be dead, and we don't want dead people voting. So that's the idea. It has 6 people supporting it, but it's really twice as many who have put their support behind that idea over time. Who knows? That could be, 10 more people right here. We have 10 more people at this event. They could all register for Agora and add that idea to their ideological profile. But hey, if you have a better idea, then please introduce it and propose it to us.
Well, I would like to just say there, sorry no for just cutting across. I think it's a good idea. The universal income is a good idea. It's something I thought about myself before. But again, it can be tied in with what Jamin was saying there earlier, and what Darmendra was saying. If we were all, basically, a lot of people have to work to put food on the table, and that's the end of the story. So if that equation was taken out of it, you didn't have to go to work and do an unnecessary something you didn't want to really necessarily do in order to just put food on the table and spend 40 hours a week doing that, if not more. You would have the time in your hands to contemplate what it is you really want to do as a person and what you can contribute to society. I believe that would definitely work out. But yes, a universal wage is an incentive to carry on and do what you, so you choose your career then, because your food's on the table already, you choose your career. And a universal wage is a good basis for a fair wage system, because we all need money to live on and blah, 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 blah. We just say that. But a 3.5 hour week, or 3.5 day week, because for what you're doing there then is you're killing the idea of unemployment, whereas everybody could have to job the 7 days in the week. In other words, like 2 people have half of the week to do the same job. So you have a 3.5 day week, and you have another 3.5 days to yourself to look after your family and the things that you want to do for yourself too. So, these are just things that we can get sorted by talking as we're doing here anyway. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and
Then please support it so it can, so it can rise higher.
yeah, I will do that as soon as I get my ass off the couch and get onto Agora and start applying myself. So my apologies for that again.
Any other supporters here of the universal basic income? Anyone who would like to speak against it? Oh, interesting.
Oh, I just wanted to say I'm both in favor of it, but with reservations. My reservations are, I mean, if we have to live in a world with money, right, and with hoarding and accumulation, this seems like a good thing to add on to that world. But I'm still questioning whether we need to live. I mean, would it be better that we designed a world where there was no money, no private property, and we found a different way of organizing ourselves, and a different way of organizing work, and I'm just thinking out loud. I haven't thought it through, right? But it feels to me, right, in the spirit of that more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. My heart knows that there is a way to have a more beautiful world, that's compassionate and loving and caring and regenerative, that where there is no accumulation, there is no private property other than necklaces and glasses and headbands and stuff like that, right? But beyond that, and maybe some basic items, right? We don't own land, we don't own buildings, et cetera, et cetera. It feels to me, and again, I haven't thought it through, right? So I'm not ready to have like a debate, the capitalist system versus this other system, but it feels to me there's got to be a better way, right, than a game of hoarding, of endless hoarding at that. And then because this feels like a way to, I mean, again, there's things I like about it. If we have to live in a world with money, okay, fine. Then I love universal basic income. If we have to live in a world where there's money and hoarding, but do we have to live in a world where there's money and hoarding? That's my question.
Well, right now we do live in a world of money, and so until you come up with a better idea to replace that idea, I'd like to have your support for that idea. Step by step. If you can't jump, then at least walk. To the next destination.
No, that's a very good point. So while we're in this world, then yes, I'm in support of a universal basic income. I'm also in support of food delivery, organized food delivery. So rather than people buying their own food, everyone having to leave their home to go out and buy, or to order online, which is only economically viable if you're wealthy. Then what does that mean? The poor have to take their UBI check, universal basic income check, leave the home, and then go out and buy at different stores. That's going to spread the virus. So the one thing I would modify with that is, and maybe the solution is take 30% of what would be the universal basic income, pool all that money, and go out and buy the grains and the vegetables and everything else and deliver the food, and then give the rest as universal basic income so that people can whatever order stuff online other than food. Anyway, those are some of my initial thoughts.
Well, I just want to say I disagree with the idea of food delivery. I think people should have the freedom to, if they don't want to get it from a centralized source, then they should be able to get it from wherever they want, and they shouldn't be charged for it. If they want to order it from Uber, or if they want to order it from Lyft, they should have that freedom. And if they want to order it from one restaurant serving one dish, as opposed to some other restaurant serving another dish, then they should have that freedom. And that's why the UBI would give to people if we have to be in quarantine. Again, just to clarify, I'm not really thinking in the quarantine situation, but this is also applicable within that. But yeah, so the people can get it from, through whatever means, from whatever source that they choose, because the fundamental value I'm trying to uphold is freedom. That's, to me, that's the most important thing, freedom.
Yeah, I think with the system that Jamin is proposing, though, as well, is if you think about it, it would be a multitude of different restaurants, caterers, whatever type of food production facility. So if you had free food, you still have you still have a choice of what you want to eat. You know what I mean? In a sense, you still have a choice of where you want to get your food from. It's just that what Jim is proposing is that you don't have to pay for it, therefore you don't have to work to just put food on the table. So I get where he's coming from. So if the food was the free side of it, but in order to buy the little things that you do want, because at the end of the day, as you said, Cesare, economy is something that will forever go, because if somebody has something or wants something, then they either have to trade for it or pay for it. So like Jamie was saying, the little bits and pieces that we each of us like, if you want to pay for that, well then you contribute to your society by working your 3.5 days a week and getting a universal wage to pay for the little bits and pieces. But the food is free, therefore cuts out the necessity to go out and just work 40 hours a week to put food on the table for your children.
I think this position is oblivious to the basic functioning of economics. Nothing is free. Someone is always working for something. And the point is that by giving people money, like the UBI, it gives people the freedom to get what they want, how they want it, instead of having a centralized source, which can be inefficient, because without competition, it's prone to inefficiencies. Competition increases efficiency. When you centralize things, you decrease efficiency. You only centralize things when there is absolutely no better way. The reason why we don't have private armies, why every one of us doesn't hire our own police officer, is because it doesn't make financial sense for us to do that. That's why we have financial, but as well as monopoly of force and things like that. That's why we don't each have our own private army. That's why we have a police force. It has to be done centrally. But if it does not have to be done centrally, then it shouldn't be done centrally. That's the fundamental principle of economics, the market economics, and it proves itself over and over and over. So I am opposed to centralizing anything that does not need to be centralized, especially food delivery. There are too many choices out there. There's too much market competition to make this efficient and effective. And if I want to spend $20, well, whatever, I'm just making my point. If I eat very little and somebody eats less, I don't want to pay for someone eating more. Somebody is a glutton and they eat 10 pounds of food a day. I don't want to be paying for that. I want them to pay for it. They should pay for that food, that abundance of food that they're deciding to engorge. Is that the word? Or I don't know. It's basically, the point is they should pay for it. If you want to eat 5 times or 10 times as much as I do, go ahead and do it, but pay for it yourself. Because what I'd rather do is not to spend that much money, not pay for your food, and I'd rather spend it on beers, strippers, cigarettes, and cocaine. Because that's my freedom. Like if that's the universal basic income that I get, then I want to spend it how I want to spend it. Or maybe I'm going to spend it on books. Or maybe I'm going to spend it on, I don't know, helping someone else get a, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to spend it on doing something nice for someone else. The point is decentralization increases efficiency.
I'd like to just chime in on that and just say that, funnily enough, I was having this conversation yesterday, but what you're saying there about centralising food and food for all and not having the freedom, and some people don't want to pay and etc. I think that exact same thinking can be applied to universal basic income, because only yesterday I was talking to my partner saying the exact same thing, that I'd be in agreement with you. I was saying if everyone had the same income, then we'd have doctors who are good doctors and great teachers, and because people will go into the job that they want to go into. But my partner made a really great point in saying, yeah, but you still can't stop human nature, and saying, actually, I work harder than you. Why are you getting more than me? I put my life on the line. You don't with your job. So why are you getting more than me? So those principles can still apply with universal basic income, because as much as I'm in favor of the idea, reality, the human nature, like you just said about the food, applies also with the basic income.
I think if we examine the idea as that was proposed, I think we see that there are different arguments for that, and that there's an overabundance of arguments for the universal basic income as opposed to something. I'd be happy to discuss it with you, unless if other people want.
No, it was just something as you were talking, and like again, only yesterday I would have said 100% support you, but it was something, a seed planted in my head. And then as you were talking about the food, I was like, actually, that sounds like the same principles that can be applied to universal basic income. I'm not disagreeing or anything. I'm just putting that point out there that I realized myself as well, because you can't stop. Unfortunately, you can't stop some people thinking that they're deserved more than others. You know.
This would require a deep economic analysis. I mean, I'd be happy to get into some of these ideas with you. It's if other people are interested in listening. So.
Before we go there, I just want to make an observation. It's what I'm noticing, and about the last half hour, we started to tune into this way of doing things. I'm just going to be brutally honest here. It feels disempowering. I feel like all of a sudden my energy's gone way down, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And it's like, for me, it's great to have these incredibly well thought out and very comprehensively scoped ideas. And that's all good and everything, but for me, it's like, if there's no spirit in this, if something doesn't grab a person's being and their soul, and there's a sense of empowerment and energizing and that kind of thing, it's like, I just want to vomit. I mean, just to be honest with you, that's where I'm at with this right now. It's like, what, I mean, if we got to do this, can we do it somewhere else? Because that's not what I'm doing here. That's not what this is about for me. And I can leave if it's going to go that way. I don't own this space. I'm perfectly happy to get out of here. But, I want to take a breath again and get back in my body and feel myself. And it's a lot of shadow in all this. It's the competition thing. There's elements behind what's being said that it's a wonderful scope but it's very narrow. It's not including the totality of being human. I got to say it, because yes, it may really have well thought out things, and it, whatever the reasoning is. I mean, I'm present in this vehicle, so I'm experiencing what's going on with me. And in order to take something to the next level, which we're going to have to do if we want to get out of the mess we're in now, we have to get into an energy and an awareness and a connectedness that takes us to that where we're coming from, that next level. Because if we do it the other way, where it's all thinking first and then we'll use that thinking, it won't go there. It doesn't work that way. You got to be there first, then the ideas can come in and be attracted to your energy field that's at a higher frequency. And you can take those same ideas, but now they're alive. If we're just laying them out and doing it that way, I mean, it's just, for me, it just sucks the life force right out of me. And that's just where I'm at with it. So
I just want to comment real quick. Well, the way that you feel about that, that's how I feel about all this happy-go-lucky, let's all get together, hold hands, kind of like non-realistic nonsense. I mean, like I just want to say, like, I listen to so much stuff that you guys say that is so absurdly unrealistic, and I have to be like, I have to hold my tongue, and I'm like, wow, these people are living in a dream. So I'm just saying, I feel the same way, looking at it from the other perspective. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, and we actually do have the option to split the room into two different groups, and those who want to have, kind of a hard-nosed, logical, dollars and cents, conversation led by Cesare, we could do that, and a more heartfelt, spirit-felt conversation led by Dharmendra, we can do that. Emery has a comment first, but let's just keep that in mind. We can divide, and that's not to say that, oh, these people are bad and these people are good or anything of the sort. This actually gets to an important principle of collective intelligence, which is, funnily enough, very centered on freedom. We all have the freedom to participate in whatever conversations we want, right? So we have that option, and we may exercise it. But let's first hear from Emery, and then we'll see where we go with that. Go ahead, Emery.
Thanks, Jamin. I just wanted to say, I guess, at this point that back about maybe, I guess, 14, 15 minutes ago, I thought I had a pretty well-defined thought to present for contribution, but I kind of lost track of it at this point, but the seed of it was that, I had the question of, well, are we looking at this as a game, Is it a game? To me, this is not a game, but it can be a game, if we all agree to it, right? If everybody wants to agree that this is a game and we're going to have, certain kind of rules established here so that we can all participate in the game, like Monopoly is a fun game. Yeah, we played it when I was young many times. But, you have 6 players in the game of Monopoly. We're talking about billions of people. And the game, unfortunately, it's not structured to allow the billions of people play the game. That's just the fact. So are we playing a game? Or is it even possible to play the game the way we go about structuring things? So anyway, that was, I had a better defined contribution than that, but that's about the seed of it.
Okay, well, let's get to the point that, I about what conversation do we want to be in, and do we want to try doing a breakout room thing so that those who want to be in a conversation with which Cesare leads along the lines of what he's been discussing, can do that, and those who want to be in a conversation more along the lines of what Dharmendra is talking about can do that. Raise your hand if you like the idea of going into breakout rooms, giving that a try. Okay, I don't see a lot of hands going up. So let's, well, I'll tell you what, Cesare, we followed your line of thinking for a bit. I had a similar kind of reaction as Dharmendra. It's like, so I'd like to invite Dharmendra to lead us in a conversation starting with the heart and spirit and what feels right to you, Dharmendra, if you're game.
Well, I also I don't see that's I also feel that's not felt fair to Cesare, who was also doing something. I just expressed my opinion about what I felt about it. And I didn't want to take over, and I'm not trying to define his space. I can't do that anyway. I give him total credit for doing what he's doing. And I know that he's doing some good, whatever he's doing. Obviously, he wouldn't be manifesting what he's manifesting in the world. Where I'm always more at is that how can we take both of these pieces, put them together, and transcend the this whatever it is, friction, I guess you could say, between the two, and find out what works from both sides and put it together, because I've had this discussion many times before with some people in my life who were also the kind of like, get it done kind of people, and they always had a hard time with what they were so easy to stereotype in a certain way as, airy-fairy, blah, blah, blah nonsense. When I know better, because I'm not an airy-fairy anything, and I don't do any of that shit. I'm a down-to-earth martial artist who can put whatever I say into action through my body. So I know that what I say, I live. It's my action, it's my body, and it comes through my actions because I've been training it that way. So whatever I learn in this so-called airy-fairy, which is not what it is, it's the correct way to have a relationship with the life force. And if you think that it's other than that, then you really are deluded, because it is only by being connected with the life force and making that your primary teacher that you can learn to move with nature. And unless you're moving with nature, whatever you're creating is an imposition of some kind of very subtle separatist mental state injected to, imposed upon, in you're literally invading this nature. We want to work with nature, not against it. And I know there's a lot in what Cesare says that's also part of nature too. That is that cut and dried, no bullshit. Let's just, let's lay it out so it works. I don't have any problem with that. What I do have a problem with is that when you only take that one aspect of being, when the two other aspects are not included as equally powerfully in a way that can be felt energetically, so that you can have that total clarity, that total groundedness, that total logicalness. I think logic is fabulous. I think it's great. But without the abstract side and without the mutative capacity of individuality, without all three, it's one-sided, it's lopsided. So I need to also go into my past experience and look at that logic that I want to experiment with in the world, but come from the experience I've had from my life with the abstract side of myself. But I also want to respect my individuality that may come up with things that I didn't even expect in the moment that can impact and transform my experience, and also lend something a little bit more I don't know, impactful to that part of me that wants to experiment through logic and to make a life that's going to work for everybody in the best possible way. So it's like, that's all I'm saying. But I want to have all of it together. If I can, I can't. If that doesn't work. But I'm not into pushing somebody. I'm not into that bifurcation stuff, because that goes totally against what we're trying to create here, which is we've got to be able to handle everybody's different individualities. I mean, Cesare's not being violent and he's not doing anything weird. He's just being who he is and expressing what he's expressing. I want to also respect that and support that. Even if it challenges me in doing so, I've got to figure out a way to adjust myself to align with that, because there are things in there that are good, that are going to work. But I'm also going to be brutally honest and say certain things at certain times, because that's just what's there in me. Go ahead, Cesare.
I know James got his hand up, but I just want to comment real quick. Just because my perspective is different than just because I'm presenting a perspective that's different than the one at the moment, doesn't mean that that's the only perspective I'm capable of. I'm just providing the other side of the picture that's not being recognized within the discussion at all. So, and I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to take away your inspiration and motivation to create a better, happier world, because that's exactly what I'm after. I just don't want it to be based on delusions, and just failure to appreciate like the actual mechanics of the world, not just like this is like to change the world, you have to know how the world works. And so there are certain rules that you can't fight against, because they're like gravity. You will come crashing down. So, I'm definitely not trying to disinspire you. I try to inspire people, and yeah, we need that inspirational and let's say spiritual, but we also need that intellectual component. That's what I'm trying to deliver. I'm not trying to definitely I'm not trying to disinspire you. So.
Right.
All right. James has been waiting. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Well, first of all, I agree foremost with what Dharmendra was just said there, and especially in what he initially said was with that I don't believe either that we should just push Cesare's subject or that conversation aside for no either. It's best to deal with it, and I agree with what Dharmendra was saying there, and I admire the way he approached it. And I admire the way Cesare's response to that as well. And I just want to, my input here is only that I'm here on the Block Party, the collective conversations, for the exact purposes that Dharmendra is talking about, because we do need to be in touch with our spirits and ourselves to know where we want to go and to try, to go forward. But I also agree with Cesare that the political system and the system that we have is fighting against us. It's like gravity. Yeah, definitely agree with that. And Darman, I also understand that Cesare is passionate about his platform, and it's a philosophical platform. Sorry, no. And I understand he's passionate about it and getting it off the ground as well. And the only reason that there was a bit of what could you say, a bit of static there now in the flow of the conversation was because Cesare introduced that topic out of the Agora platform in response to something that Dharmendra said, and we kind of slowly went down, or quickly went down another rabbit hole there of conversation. I only responded to when Cesare said, "Does anyone agree with that?" I responded saying, "Yes, I do," but blah blah blah. And here's my input to that. That's grand. Neither here nor there. I'm here I believe that what we're doing here on the Collective Intelligence Block Party is essential to going forward. And I also believe that Cesare's philosophical method is also essential for going forward in the political spectrum. But none of them are any good without the other, is what I'm trying to get you to. Well, Cesare, I implore your patience, and I only ask for you to be more patient with it. But to understand that no philosophy came from anywhere other than experience. And that's what we're all here on this Block Party for, is to talk about experience, share our experience, learn from our experience, philosophize about our experience, and seek answers from our experience in finding different ways, because the ways we have aren't working. So rather than banging heads, I think we should be putting our heads together, and because the philosophical side and the political side, the economic side, every part of it, every aspect of this is something that has to be talked about, and we can't talk about them without this kind of a forum, and we can't change it without talking about them. So I just commend Dharmendra and Cesare there for both the way that they're handling the conversation anyway, and it's good to be part of it.
So I have an idea. Here's an idea. What if we had an open conversation about the world that we want, right? And we talk about it in terms of basic physical reality, right? Respecting the laws of physics, etc., but not presupposing that we need to have constructs such as money, and therefore income, and therefore taxation, and that likewise we don't presuppose that we have to have a construct of private property. All these are human-made inventions, right? These are all tools in order to achieve certain ends. And what if we simply started from a blank slate and said, here we are, here we have the natural world. We are a species within the natural world. What kind of world do we want? Forget about if it's possible or not. What kind of world do we want? Now, I would bound it by what's physically possible, right? So you won't hear me saying, "Oh, I want a world where we can all just fly with our bodies naked through the air," and no, you won't hear me saying that. But how does that strike people as kind of an initial framing? What is the world we want, right? That doesn't presuppose a whole bunch of stuff from our past. And part of why I frame it that way is, here we are at the cusp of a new world. We're all grounded at home. I love Sailesh's analogy of we're a caterpillar that went now we're in a cocoon state. And we're the imaginal cells. We're amongst the imaginal cells, imagining where we go from here. Super exciting, right? Why would we constrain ourselves? Why not have an unconstrained conversation about the world we want? And then once we identify the world we want, we can say, okay, great. How do we get from the world we have to the world we want? Maybe that involves money. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it involves other systems of measurement. Maybe it involves private property. Maybe it involves everything being communal. Well, if it's communal, then how do we manage it, right, et cetera? Those are conversations about how do we get to this world that we want from where we are. But let's not presuppose, right? That we have to have money, we have to have private property. For me, those are open conversations. They're not case closed. We got to have money, we got to have private property, otherwise it won't work. We certainly know plenty of historical examples that have not worked under communism and under capitalism. So counterexamples abound. What if I'll just leave it at that. What if we had an open conversation starting with a blank slate and said, what world do we want? And then we can figure out how to get there. Does that sound reasonable? So before we have that discussion, please let me know what you think about having that discussion. Does that make sense?
I think the big question is having this discussion as opposed to what other discussion is the important question.
Yeah, well, another possible discussion is, let's assume we have to have money and private property, and then how do we have the best world possible within a world of money and private property, right? That would be another one. But I'm suggesting we unshackle ourselves from such constraints and simply talk in basic terms about what is the world that we want.
I just want to really quickly respond to that. If the question is what's the world we want, we're not starting out from having money and private property. My first thing would be to say, I know what we should do. We should invent money and private property. That's what I want. So that's going to be my first step. So.
No, I understand, and we can go there, but so that noted, and so I got your input. Who else has input into this conversation, starting with the world we want? Any ideas, or should we just have the conversation?
I say just have the conversation. Because I'm feeling exactly how you were feeling. But Cesare fascinates me. So this is like such a beautiful opportunity to just kind of understand his, because what I'm missing is his heart is so huge, and I'm not hearing the language of his heart through the work yet. And I think that's what I'm waiting for. His intrinsic whys. He's so incredibly passionate. So that's all his heart he's channeling through this work, but it's very cerebral work. And I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to see where his ultimate motivation is coming from his heart, but I'm not hearing the language yet. So I'm just studying and listening and learning, because I know nothing of economics. So I know a lot about what Sailesh is doing and what our work is with Basecamp and the Aquarius. So this is a whole different learning opportunity for me. So it's a rich conversation. So I would like for it to just kind of go back to being in flow, if that's okay. That's my opinion.
Beautiful. Love it. Any other input about the conversation, or do we just jump in and have it? All right, so let's have the conversation. And here's how I'd like to propose that we start, is by doing a free flow brainstorm. And the basic rules of brainstorm are just put ideas out there, but don't judge anyone's ideas. Just put them out there. I think this. Great. Let there be silence until the next person says, well, I think this. Then we can kind of get a bunch of stuff out there. It's totally fine to build off of other people's ideas, but not to judge them, right? So shall we just give it a go? Just short bursts, not a lot of logic, just boom. What do you want in the world that you want? What would you like to see in the world that you want?
I'll say really quickly, my first thing that comes to mind because of my work is I want to see childhood treated and honored as a sacred stage that it is. This is what I want. I want children to be seen for who and what they bring and who and what they are. And I want that to be remembered, to hold that sacred space and see ourselves as, to honor children as our gurus.
I would 100% agree with that anyway, because you almost took the words out of my mouth, Jackie, in a sense, because I would love to see that. I would love to see where our education system wasn't set on a curriculum basis, where our children are compelled to learn and just specific subjects and not express themselves. And I think a child should be allowed to obviously learn the basic reading and writing subjects, obviously, but more time should be allowed for a child to express themselves, to see where it is that their gifts can be brought out better, because every child has a gift, but majority of them are confined for life, unfortunately, by having to conform, and it's the society that makes it conform, and therefore we stifle the beauty and the natural gifts that our children have every day. Like, so I believe that we have to definitely reevaluate our educational system, because in order to fix any problems, especially problems that need to be changed generationally, we have to start with our children.
I like to say that the education system needs to go from this compulsory education to a potential driven education system where we create learning environments for children, where we create the space and the resources and tools for the children to show us where their natural innate wisdom is guiding them to develop, and we create that support for them to show us who they are. We want a world where we walk around and we see mirrors of ourselves in everyone, because everyone is living authentically. Everyone is living to their greatest self. That's the divinity of who we are, and that's what we all strive to be. We just want to be seen for who we are. We want to be acknowledged for the gifts that we bring, and we just want to be free to be. That's the world, that's the dream world, and that's how we do it, by creating this environment for children to show us the greatness within ourselves, by starting with doing that for the kids.
And if that were the way and we left those generations grow up and they carried that on, that would literally solve everything, every single thing, like education, safety, security, food, all the environmental industry. Like, think about it, like, you know, it would actually solve everything. That is the key.
Respect for nature. It does all begin with our children. At the end of the day, it does all begin with our children, because we can talk of changes and try and bring up the changes, but unless we instill these changes in our children and the youngest generations now, they won't continue. If you think about it, we are where we are today because of generational conformity.
You know, when we heal ourselves, when we work on ourselves, and I'm not just talking about talking about a psycho-spiritual level, when we have the ability that when we work on our own trauma, we can heal generations, 6 generations back, And we create such a heal frequency 6 generations forward. So all that ancestral PTSD, that collective trauma that's in the ethers that we all inherit, that's in our institutions, that lives, that's alive in us. And that drives us and our behaviors. So when we work on ourselves, we literally can heal that collective trauma, and we can heal that ancestral PTSD that's holding us all in place, that we don't want to acknowledge, that we don't want to think about. We individuate ourselves so much when we are all part of a collective. And until we acknowledge that we are all victims of this collective trauma, that we are all, it drives how we see each other. It drives what motivates us. And until we're courageous enough to go deep just in ourselves and understand, why am I doing this? Why am I so passionate? Why do I treat people this way? Why do I accept this behavior? All those whys as to the me, then we can heal and become part of the collective, and then we're more effective. We don't have to work so hard with our mind, our brain power. Just by existing and speaking through the heart, all that knowledge and wisdom, when it's filtered through the heart, that can create so much more effective change than just working so hard with our brains, with our minds. So that's kind of what we're looking at for that world of 7 core shifts. That healed world, and it starts with creating that space for our children so that they never have to go and heal from the trauma that we inflict on them. That they don't spend their entire adulthood healing from childhood, like most of us do. Let's just go and let's just create that sacred space for children as it is, and let them show us. They'll show us the real way. We just leave them be and protect them.
I think one of the most important things for children is private property, so that no other kids or adults take your toys.
Or we could actually teach the children that it's okay to share their toys, and if somebody else decides to take them, then leave them off for a while. They'll get bored with it, like most people do with, with anything else.
Or we could teach them not to take your toys if they don't have permission to take someone's toys. Just leave other people's toys alone unless they want to let you play with them.
And if you were a kid born in a house with no toys and didn't have your own private property, would you feel the same?
I would make my own toys. I still do. I was just showing you today the board game that I'm making. It's my board game, but you can play it with me. I need people to play with.
In a system of competition, there's always going to be those that don't have enough. And if we maintain the system of competition, which is the duality, which is what got us here, it's the same mentality. We're trying to create solutions with the same mentality, maintaining the system of competition in place. And we cannot foster in our children that nature of competition, because it's not our true nature. Nature does not compete with itself. And we are nature. We're going against our nature. No, it doesn't. Nature's holistic, and if nature was competitive, we wouldn't exist. The world wouldn't exist. For millennia, we wouldn't be here. And it's okay. You can roll your eyes and you can, make gestures that it's okay, because I'm grounded, and I know the sacred sciences, and I know the reality that we are literally just all vibration and energy. That's all we are. And whatever cause and effect we have in this life has to resolve itself. It's just physics.
The universe is a meat grinder.
I want to live in a world where there's no ground meat and no grinding and no meat grinders. And everyone has plenty to eat, a roof over their heads, and they're held by a human family. Even if all of their immediate family, parents, siblings, etc., are all dead for whatever reason, dead and gone, and it's just you know, a 12-year-old girl with no immediate family, that she is held by a human family that loves her, by all of us. I want all of us to be a human family, where no matter who you are, no matter what color of your skin, where you were born, what your sex, what your age, anything, what you look like, anything, you are loved. And that is a basic human right, to be loved. And it's a responsibility that all people share. It's all of our responsibility to love all of life.
I was fortunate enough in my life to spend about 4 years of it on a 121 square mile, I think it was 40,000 acres. And permanent population was maybe at any one time 1,500 people, but people came from all over the world at different times of the year, and it could get up to like 10,000 people. And we accommodated when that happened and took it, you know, put it up and took it down as we needed to. And it was the most well-run, efficient down. We were 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it was anything but airy-fairy. It was building buildings and running businesses and creating a city charter. It was the whole 9 yards. It was like creating a reality. But the difference was some of the principles that were about this. First of all, everybody agreed no drugs, so there were no drugs. Everybody agreed that there was no violence, so there was no violence. Everybody agreed that, you know, you came into the welcome center and people there had been meditating for years. You sat down with that person, you sat in front of them, they could tell within 5 minutes whether you're a nut or not. You could handle nonviolence, or if you still needed to be a vampire and hurt people and steal their energy like that, or do drugs and, you know, do things to your consciousness in ways that make you distorted so you don't see reality right side up. And basically, when it came to children, there was a very unique thing with children. It's like the whole concept was that the place was so run, so down to earth that every child in this space of community of 1,500 meditators, and remember, we're building a city and we're all working our asses off every day. We're doing anything but sitting there chanting mantras. Nobody had time for that. We had done that, and we had spent years meditating to get to this place where we could create a city like this and get real about putting it into action in life. Okay, and the children, everybody was their uncle and aunt. Everybody, the children could go to anybody and get love. To me, that's an infinitely richer system than my toy, my thing, leave me alone unless you ask. But that was respected. If a child felt that way, everybody respected that and say, okay, that is your toy, we're not going to mess with it. But then children also had the opportunity, some children, to go, I'd love to share my toy with you. Why don't you share your toy with me? We can be enriched twice as much that way. Now I got 2 toys to play with, and I don't have to worry or keep track of them or wonder if somebody's going to take them from me or not, you know? And it just was such a, in terms of children, it was just such a richer way of doing things. And the only thing we did with children was make sure they didn't hurt themselves. Otherwise, they were free to discover anything they wanted. And children, it's really good when they get to meet every kind of person. They become wise at a very young age because children they don't have judgment things going on. They can learn from everybody, you know, and just keep them protected so they don't hurt themselves, but let them be, just let them be and let them. And what we found is that every kid, by the time they went from small to teenager to what, they figured it out. They had the world down at 21. They knew what they wanted to do. And it was an unbelievable experiment. And it was all with meditators from all over the world who had spent years before. We had spent years before meditating in India, but then we came together in America and said, we need to build something and we got to get serious about that. I was driving D8s and scrapers, and I was running construction crews, and I was driving buses. I mean, anything but, you know, this airy-fairy stuff. I don't know where you get that from. I mean, if you really want to talk about what is real spirituality, it's absolutely practical in the best possible way about every single thing in life. There was no airy-fairiness in that. So I laugh when people try to tell me who haven't even been through something like that, where I created a city with 1,500 other people. We made it a reality. We didn't talk about it. So all these things we're talking about, you know, maybe what I did back then, that's 100 years ahead of our time, but I would hope we could create it now, because it is, you can do it. It's possible. If you get the right mix of people, and they're all just about consciousness, and they're all about, look, we got a world we got to live in. There's no point in being airy-fairy. What we have to do, and yeah, you can get airy-fairy at the end of the day. You want to go have a few beers and discuss philosophy or whatever after you've, you know, driven your D8 all day, or built buildings all day, or, you know, worked in the administration building, sending, you know, letters to the governor, whatever you did, you know, but it was all real things in life. Every single person had a real job they did. And there was no money. Everybody got fed every day. Everybody had the clothes they needed. And there were people who took care of washing the clothes. That was their job. And other people built buildings. That was their job. And other people made sure everything was legal. And so they handled the government. That was their job. I mean, it was all totally real. You can't do it in this world anymore. You can't be off the grid and do something like that big. But there is a way to do it. I mean, it is possible. You can make all this stuff happen. And I love what you guys are saying about children. It's just protect them. Make sure they don't hurt themselves. Otherwise, let them, they don't need school. Except they do need, in order to, you know, to get by in the world, we do need a certain amount of math, a certain amount of reading, and a certain amount of writing. Okay, that's fine. Maybe, you know, and maybe there's a way we haven't quite figured out yet, but each child also learns differently. To put everybody in a cookie cutter box way of, that's horrible. That kills people's intelligence. That isn't the way that some kids learn verbally, some kids learn visually, some kids learn tactilely, some kids learn through smell. You never know. Some have different combinations. Some like to do things challenging. Some others like a very relaxed space when they're learning. So it's like, but if you let a kid be, they'll figure it out. Kids aren't stupid like us, who've grown up and become stupid a little bit. You know, I'm not saying we're stupid, but if we compare ourselves to kids, look how they're way more on it. They don't have any inhibitions, and they're not with repression and psychosis and neurosis. They don't have any of that. They're just like, I want that, I'm going for it. Boom, okay, go. And we'll make sure you don't hurt yourself, you know? And that's what I mean by a spirited discussion. I mean, it has to come from your own real experience too. I guess I was just really fortunate to be in experiments on this planet that actually are lived through this kind of stuff. And we just did it for 3 or 4 years. It wasn't meant to be forever. It was all part of the path I got on, which was about awakening and spiritual, you can call it woo-woo if you want, but it was anything but woo-woo. It was so down to earth, it's not even funny. How many people do you know work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for years, 4 or 5 years straight? And you don't even get paid. You just get the opportunity of being there and giving your energy every day to something you believe in so much. You want to create a peaceful world, so let's do it. So we did it. And it was done after a few years, and that was that. But it's so it can be done. You know, and all these principles we're sharing, just a second, I'm almost done. But all these things we're saying about kids, and we have to start with the kids, and we have to give them freedom. We want to talk about freedom, kids. Just protection. It's all you need. Freedom is the other side. Okay, Jamie, jeez.
Oh, no, I was just dancing for Jackie because she was laughing at that I covered my mouth. But I was just, all I wanted to say was, I want to live in that world. What you just described, Dharmendra, that's the world I want to live in. Right there. Boom. Boom. Total unity, togetherness, purpose, mission, spirit, love, protection of children, liberation of children. Talk about the women's lib movement. How about the children's lib movement? Anyway, that's the kind of world I want to live in. Cesare, you had your hand up. Go for it.
So a couple key points about what you said. Number one, if you get the right mix of people, that was one of the words that you used. That's a very important point, because that's a problem. And the other problem is that you said it wasn't meant to be forever. That's a problem, because if you're going to create the kind of world you want to live in, you want it to be stable. You want it to persist indefinitely. The fact that it can't continue or something, well, why not? I mean, yeah, it's fun to explore, but so anyways, so I suppose another thing, I guess, what would I want that world to look like? I would want there to be a city wall. I want the wall to remind people that there are some people who don't belong in the city. Sometimes some people need to be well, they just don't belong. How we deal with that, that's another story. But people need to be mindful that sometimes they need to get up on that wall and defend the city.
I want to live in a world without walls, without city walls.
Yeah, I agree, because that world, the world with walls, is the world behind us now. As I was saying last week, there's somebody else there as well. So I think you would agree with me there, no, Cesare, and what I'm talking about here is because, in the sense, the shoe is on the other foot now, because I'm saying it to you this week. That's in the world we want to leave behind, the world with walls. Like, if we're like, you're talking about paradigms of this world now, and we're talking about a world in the future. So the world of walls is behind us, and the world in the future is what we're envisioning or imagining, for lack of a better word or whatever. But if we started off with our children, and in what Armandra was saying, and Jackie was saying, and Stephanie and myself, and we instill these, we give our children, like, first of all, yes, as Jim has said, we want to liberate our children. But why do, I guarantee you most children don't want to spend 30, 40 hours a week being forced to do subjects that they don't really understand or want to be doing. Because, as Darmendra said, and I said myself, if you teach them the basics of reading, basics of maths and what have you, sooner or later, you in whatever class size, you're going to find some child that's going to go, I really like these maths. You know, I like, because he's a natural mathematician. There you go. That's his gift. Off he goes. You got another guy, oh, I like this science lark I've been reading about. It doesn't matter. You give the child the basics of the education, and then you give them the majority of their time then to explore what it is they want to, to be themselves. And that's how you find the passion in the child. And generations down the line, there would be no need for walls.
And so anyway, thank you, James. What we came up against after 4 years was the American government. And they came in and under trumped up charges, which they can create anytime they want, anywhere they want. They took the leader and they ran him through jail after jail across the country for several weeks, and then sent him back to the country he came from. And that was the end of that experiment. That's why I say. But we were absolutely stable. We had let's see, as far as economy goes, we had one billionaire, the heiress of Kmart, who was worth 600 million, several others that were in the 200 million category, tons of multimillionaires, and they were all involved, and they were all giving the support to this space. It wasn't like it was an issue. And then we also were able, through different types of farming stuff, to create an economy where we could bring money in too. So we were really just at the beginning of something. It wasn't a problem. The least of our problems was the economy and how much money we needed, or the fact that we only wanted to do it for a little while. We were just starting to get into the swing of things when the darks, the evil, the evil that exists in this world through the powers that be came in and just squashed it, because of some things that happened with a couple of our people in intergovernmental stuff, where one of the guys who was big in Nike, one of the corporatists, didn't like something, and then started to get his lobbyists through the government to come in and just. So the bottom line is that's what we're up against. So I'm telling you what I shared in the beginning about, first, who are we? Well, we're that city. We can be that city if we want to be. But guess what? We're up against things like the American government, that don't want people to coexist without crime and without drugs and without money. They don't want that. They want to control the miserable, horrible drudgery that they've created, so they can remain in control of those few that do control it. And they didn't like what we did. They didn't like us living our truth. They didn't like the freedom we were giving. They were absolutely scared shitless of what we were doing, because we were all free thinkers. We were all taught to trust our own, our own hearts and our own hunches and our own way of thinking. That the government didn't like that. They didn't like people who, because all of a sudden, my God, we don't have control over these people. So we've got to create a situation where we can come in and blame them for something, and paint them as being a menace to society because they're uncontrolled, they're wild, they could do things that if it got out into the culture, it would be, but we are the opposite of that. But that's not what the government. So there's a little more to that picture, and I wanted to just see what people would say when I just put out the world we wanted. But I'm very clear about what we're up against, and what we're up against is, you know, quite something. So you can do an experiment like that, and you can actually prove pretty much all the incredible stuff we're talking about, and really cool. The guy who ran it was a master philosopher, by the way. He had a doctorate in philosophy, so he knew philosophy, and he could take anybody from Hegel to Kant to you name it, and he was amazing. What he was an absolutely, but he was a master meditator too. So somehow he took both. And he was also the kind of guy that when he was a kid, he met the heads of the country where he came from, because he had incredible people around him when he was young that took him to meet people from all dimensions and levels and layers and responsibilities and power levels of the status quo in society. So he had a very well-rounded picture, and when he grew up, he was incredibly lucky to have such a broad spectrum of experience to bring to his meditativeness. And then when he got around to his work, you know, he spent 20 years wandering around his country he came from, gathering people, and then he finally settled somewhere and said, now let's do this thing. And it worked. It worked so good that the American government sniffed it and said, we got to kill this thing because it works, it's good, and we don't want that. We want suffering people that we can control. And you know, you guys all know it. You're all too familiar with it. I don't need to tell you about that part. That's what we're up against.
Well, so there's another thing I want in my ideal world. I want an army. I want an army of people with weapons, and I want an army of lawyers who can defend the ideal world so that somebody else doesn't come in and ruin it. And for that, we're going to need taxes. So taxes is another thing.
Or maybe the ideal world won't have anyone wanting to come in and ruin it because there's nothing to ruin. I mean, they're also in the ideal world we're talking about at that stage.
Well, if you want to build an ideal world, you're not going to get everyone on board at the same time. So you have to do it piece by piece. So, and the structure that you build, if it's not all encompassing, it has to be able to defend itself against what's outside of the structure so that the structure is not compromised. That's why we have taxes to support, you know, defense mechanisms.
Okay, I just want to point out that in the initial framing of this conversation, and I asked everyone, do we want to have this conversation? In the framing, it's what do we want, not how do we get there, right? And so, I mean, like if Cesare, if you said, I want taxes, I want a world with taxes, that's fine. But to say, well, I want an army, that's fine too. But then I'm just calling out that to say, well, to get an army, we need taxes. That gets at the how, and then it can become a very complicated conversation from there. So I'm proposing that we focus on just what do we want? Let's paint that picture, because that for me really opens up my heart and my mind, and it makes me feel great, right? Anyway, but that's not the only reason I want to do it. I also think that it'll help us paint a picture, right? And get clear. What do we really, really, really want, right?
I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to do that, make my comments in the form of adding on to what I want, kind of in response to what other people are saying, but also in a contributive fashion, like as positive statements of what else. I don't know. I thought I'm trying to keep a balance between those two things.
Right, and I'll just for the record, I'll be clear and say the world I want to live in, that I'm had the extreme fortune of being able to actually live in for actually a while on this earth, doing everything that everybody else does on this planet in very, very down to earth ways, in excess, actually, a little bit, but it was cool. But because it taught you sometimes you got to make super effort if you really want something to change and go in a new direction you weren't expected. But the world I live in, I definitely don't want war. I definitely don't want armies. I definitely don't want borders and boundaries. I definitely don't want no frickin' politics either. I want conscious anarchy. Absolutely. So every person's intelligent enough to be a government unto themselves. And the word for that is an aristocrat. Those are people that are capable of governing themselves through their own enlightened wisdom in a very practical, down-to-earth way. So those are just some of the things that, you know, I want to make sure I show that what I would call weeds that need to be taken out of this equation in this, because those weren't in that situation I experienced either, nor would I want them to be. And I can see that if you have to go, okay, well, that's not realistic. We're in this world and we got to get to that world from this world. So we need to start with certain things to get to that world. But I kind of fundamentally disagree with thinking I know how it all needs to go. So I'm going to plan it out in a way that's going to be good for everybody, because that's kind of a massive egotistical kind of thing that says I know what's best for everybody, and I don't think anybody knows that. And I think the world that's evolving through us now is going to be very different than that, and I don't think any of us have a handle on that or know the best way that's to handle that or how we're going to make that happen. I just don't, even from my own experience in life and what I've gone through, the kid I was, it's like the kid I was trying to tell me how to be and the way it's going to be and what I need to do to get to being me, who I am now. And the who I am now there's no way that kid could, even if I grew up to be a normal guy, the kid couldn't have figured that one out. You know what I mean? But I'm way outside a normal guy. And so there's no way that kid is going to go, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to give you this plan and this is how it's all going to work out, and you have to realize it's going to go this way. That's the logic of a child. We have to realize that a lot of where we're coming from is like the logic of a child, because of look how messed up it is. That's how, leave children without supervision and give them too much beyond their understanding to deal with, you got the world we got. Because there's too much technology and not enough intelligence. Forget about even heart, there's just not even enough intelligence to deal with it responsibly, so we can all get along together in a collective existence, that everybody's contributions are used to the best without waste, or is minimizing waste. Obviously we all got to take a crap and do those things, that's waste, whatever, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about there's so many other ways we could go about this to get where we need to go. So there's a lot of things that I see that nature does sometimes in quantum leaps. This coronavirus wasn't something that evolved over, you know, that we're going to have to take slowly. Sorry, here it is. And in 3 weeks, the whole world's like, you know, got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people from 20 people or whatever it was, you know, but a very short period of time, bam, nature goes, here it is, deal with it. So there's also that to be taken into the equation. A lot of times evolution happens in the blink of an eye, especially in terms of how nature sees it. For us, it might be a couple of months, but so there's, you know, it's, how to say it, logic and abstraction and mutation all need to be in balance. We have to have the three pillars, each one contributes something, you know, and logic, I think, is when we're in a place where the mutation has happened. We're in mutation now. So that's really the primary focus of what's happening right now. We're in mutation. To try and take the logic, no matter how good it is, no matter how evolved it is, from where, based on everything we've gone through and trying to project into the future, what's the best way to get to the future we want, there's no way we can't avoid just projecting what we have now kind of into that future. That's not really going into a mutated future. Mutated futures, I have no freaking idea where this is going to go. So I might as well, at least, the thing I can do is accelerate my own evolution as quickly as possible with as many people as possible, so we can just be prepared for whatever's coming our way, because that's what's going to happen. It's just coming. Just like you might as well look at COVID as like the preview of coming attractions. That's what's going to come more and more and more. That's what is coming toward us. for me to pretend like I got a perfect plan. When my world is falling apart, that plan's going to go. You might as well be fiddling while Rome burns. That's your plan, is the fiddle. Rome's burning. What's that fiddle going to do? It might make some pretty noise, but you know, we're trying to make a plan for something that we assume it's going to somehow kind of get back to sort of a normal. I don't know. Maybe it will. I hope to God not, because that sucks. The normal that we're trying, that COVID was created out of, the abuse of animals. I mean, come on, the whole thing. That's where our whole disease pattern started with these deep. It goes, if you go to Michael Greger, this incredible MD, talks about it. 10,000 years ago, when we started domesticating animals, boom, we got diseases. All of a sudden, wonder what that means. So it's like, but you just can't. There's no way you can predict a mutation, because a mutation literally means a discontinuity between what came before and what's coming, by the intervention of something of a higher force. It's the only thing that can do it. In this case, nature. But nature is a higher force, a way higher force, because it can handle millions of us at a time, like snapping its fingers. That's boom. You know, I mean, I guess it's just a matter of realizing the scale of change we're up against, you know, and how do we make sense of that on our scale as a growing collective, because that's the place we find ourselves in, and that's what we're up against. So I like plans right now. Could be useful in short range in dealing with things that are coming up and trying to address them in the best way we can, but any long range plans are bound to fail, because we're not going to have the same paradigm when we get through all this mutation. We're going to have to abstract from the experience we've just been through of all this mutation, and then we can get logical about how we're going to deal with it now that we've got a whole new world we're in. You know, I mean, that's how I make sense of it. I'm not saying that's, but it just kind of makes sense to me that that's in a place of mutation. Plans are, I don't know, it's kind of tenuous at best what you can do with big long range plans that are going to deal constructively with all the different needs of humanity, when the very way we deal with that is changing right under the rug is being yanked out right from under us in all those places. And it's just going to get more, because humanity ain't going to change that quick. They're just not. So they're going to keep provoking nature's, okay, you didn't get it on that one, everybody got sent home, maybe you start to get in touch with yourself more, make more connection with the people. No, you didn't get it, you just want to get back out there again. Give me my meat, give me my this, give me my that, screw all of you, keep the armies in place, stay out of my country, stay out of my house. Bam, we're right back into it again. Here comes nature again. You know, so to me, competition, armies, all of this is just gonna accelerate our doom. It's gonna accelerate our trajectory that we've created. It's just gonna get worse if we continue to bring up the things that is causing the tension on a global collective scale in the first place, that nature has no choice. What is it gonna do with that? I mean, that's the energy we're giving it. That's the energy nature's working with. That's the energy we give it, that tension, that global, you know, competition and all that, and armies and all of it. That's what nature's reflecting back to us and saying, look, you guys, okay, then we'll just go ahead. You guys can just start dying, because that's what your energy's doing. You're not giving any space for any, it's just, there's no compassion in that. There's no mutually beneficial exchange of substances. It's my way or the highway, and if you don't like that, too bad. That's kind of, it's just like pigeonholed way of looking at things. And then nature's done with that. That's not going to work anymore. That's the phase that we're moving out of, that got us into this in the first place, that individualistic, rugged, you know, the only way individuality is going to grow now is through conscious collectives. And it's going to grow in ways it never has before, because it's going to be supported in its foundations with creativity and art and culture in ways that we've never had possible before, because it's going to be conscious collectives that want to do that, because they realize any other way of doing it. The only reason the planet's alive and we're even existing is because of culture and arts and the positive things, and the woo-woo stuff, if you want to call it that. If we just had the other things without the woo-woo, we'd have killed ourselves off a long time ago. But we're getting to that point where the balance is, we're about to kill ourselves off, because look at Trump. He's taken away all the rights from the arts and the culture. He's drilling in sacred lands, in public parks, and all these areas we don't want him to mess with. He's like, I don't care if they make money, I make money. I don't care about my kids. I don't care about anything. I just care about me and my friends and us getting rich. And we probably won't exist after, you know, who knows what his mechanistic worldview is. But, you know, it's like, so anything that I see that's driven this thing to get us here, if we're going to try and use that to logically move into our future, I don't know. It's like I got 50 red flags going off going, I've been here for 61 years and I've never seen an instance anywhere of that working like that. Unless 500 other things work like that, but this humanity is so disjointed and so disconnected from itself. There's no, I mean, we're starting to create a kind of intrinsic harmonic unity and resonance between each other. That's very rare on the planet. There's probably other groups that are starting to do that too. But it's going to take a lot of that happening for a while to create a whole different vibration of how humans interact with each other. We have to create a whole new milieu of collective discourse. Collective, not individual, collective, shared, interactive discourse, where we can communicate with each other with respect, with honor, with love, with awareness, with compassion, with meditativeness, with peacefulness, and I can go on and on. You know, supporting things like woo-woo, ecstatic, you know, excitement, because quite frankly, if I haven't got those juicy qualities, a world that's just all to the plan, Jesus, cut my throat right now. I'll do it. Just give me a knife. You know, I don't want to be part of that world. I want to be a part of a world where Jackie, I can look at her and see her juicy smile and go, look, it's about kids and heart. Yummy. Give me more of that world, you know? I mean, that, and when I say it, my whole body just tingles, you know, because that's the truth for me. And I don't, any other world than that where we're just trying to rework the whole political thing in a way, because ideologies are the problem. We don't need ideologies. We need intelligence. We need to function in the now with the heart presence from our guts connected to the life force and just moving on our tracks. And when you start doing that more and more, what you need to do happens. It just happens with people. You don't need to write all these laws and have armies protect your laws and your ideologies. The whole reason we had 5,000 wars in 3,000 years, all because of ideologies. Ideologies are the worst thing we could do to try and impose. The least capable part of us of figuring out life is our mind. Our body knows it the best, and our heart's the link between the two. And our body, by our body, I mean our being, what we do, what we embody, our, you know, which is, we're supposed to be embodying siddhas, and taking the darkness, meaning what we don't know about life, and giving it our all, our gifts, so we can make our life better together. You know, but we're coming from that space where we're really in touch with our essence, with who we are. None of that to me is woo-woo. If you didn't have the woo, what people call the woo-woo, I hate people saying that. Because if you didn't have the spirit, you wouldn't have any of this. Spirit's first, then comes soul, then comes body. If you don't believe that or don't think that, you're not, I don't know where, you're in a delusion of your own creation. So when your heart says, let's do something, mind should be the servant, not the master. The reason we're in the place we're in is because mind's become the master. Mind can only do, the heart can do that and 5,000 other things, and the being can take the hearts of the whole planet, the whole universe, and handle that. So it's like, what are the players you're dealing with in who you are as a human configuration that's possible of being a creative, magical creature? That's the world I want to explore. You know, to take that child that Jackie's bringing into the world in freedom, it's going to be a magical creature by the time it's grown up. Then we're going to have a very different world. And then things like politics and, you know, then even conscious anarchy is like just a game we can play, because nobody even needs to mention the word politics, because the society itself, it's interwoven into the culture. And to me, we need to create pockets of this kind of a culture like we're doing now all over the planet. That's just going to seep in and change everything, because it's going to be in the flow of the evolution that's already started. We're just going with it instead of trying to impose on it. All right. I mean, that's, you know, so there's my oomph for the day.
Beautiful, Dharmendra. Yeah, go ahead, Cesare.
I want a world where if somebody is told that they are wrong or that they're being illogical, they don't get depressed about it. They don't get sad about it. They don't get defensive about it. They actually get excited and smile about it and welcome the challenge instead of being a little bitch and just withdrawing and getting emotional about it. So when the challenge arises, do you think like, okay, let's think about this together. Let's see, where do you think I made a mistake? Let's see what you're offering. Let's work through this. But I see people being real bitches about that. And yeah, people are really scared.
Language flag, just especially.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and they get their feelings hurt and they get depressed and like, no, don't burst my bubble of happiness, man. Let me live in my dream. No, you're just being illogical. Yeah, so that's the world I want. I want people where people are not afraid of that challenge.
I agree. I like the challenge too. And you do realize, though, that sometimes you come across that way also, Cesare, when you get all intense and you go, you're doing it too. So just remember that you're the pot calling the kettle black, because I have noticed that you do that also in your way. You can call it illogical if you want to, but you throw your little logical hissy fits too. So just be aware of that. I love you. I respect you. I love the challenge you bring to the space, but I'm also gonna call a spade a fucking spade.
All right. I'm always willing to logically explore ideas with you.
And that brings up an interesting point, because see, right now we're having an open exploration, right? I put out a challenge. Thank you all for accepting. And we're all just flowing with it, right? We could have a separate kind of conversation, perhaps at a different time, where we say, okay, this is logical. Here are the rules, logic, logos, right? Hey, and part of the beauty of the vision of collective superintelligence is letting millions of flowers bloom in terms of all different kinds of conversations. You know, right now, there's one plate on the menu, right, in the block party restaurant. You walk into the block party, there's one dish, and here it is, plop, right? I want a big, diverse menu, all vegan, but diverse, right, in terms of different kinds of conversations, so that, you know, you get what I'm saying. So you can kind of get with your little micro tribe and just go off and create something amazing. Here it is, the proof that the best possible world is a world with money and taxes and military and lawyers and jails. And yes, right? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Cesare. I know you're anti-jails and all that. But you know, if you could prove, great, go get with your peeps, go do it, produce this beautiful, tight synthesis, and then sell it to the world, right? See if the world can agree. Meanwhile, us woo-woo types will be out doing our woo-woo thing until we come up with something that's just super woo-woo. And then we'll sell that to the world. And if it culminates in a big debate, the capitalists versus the woo-woos, bring on the debate, right? That's why we need collective superintelligence, so that no one person or group or ideology can have so much power that they're able to basically do what Hitler did, right? Where they're so sure of themselves and so, you know, just this is the way it's got to be. And if you're either with us or you're against us, and if you're against us, we'll kill you, right? That's not the world I want. I want a world where these kinds of conversations are everyday occurrences and that people are just jumping in, and it's so cool, right? And find whatever pond, whatever swimming pool of the millions of swimming pools is just right for you. Find your Goldilocks zone, right? This bed's too hard. This bed's too soft. This is just right. This conversation is way too logical. This one's way too capitalistic. This one's way too religious, right? This one's way too whatever. Fine. Find your Goldilocks zone. And only by having millions of these different conversations will there be a Goldilocks zone for everyone. See, the kids in your community, Dharmendra, that you were talking about, I presume there were groups of kids that would get together over here and others that would get together over there, and that, you know, some kids were more athletic, others wanted to be more artistic, others wanted to be more conversational, others wanted to play games, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, just like we let every kid find their happiness and be liberated, likewise for the adults, for all of us. That's the world I want.
Yeah, and again, I'm just reminded of the fact that the space we have here is capable of handling everybody's differences and their uniquenesses. And the challenge that I see in a space like this is that we all just keep being the best of who we are and contributing it to this space. And then when we go out into our whatever we're doing, whatever our other things are, this is a space just for collective excellence. There, that's a nice way of saying it, collective excellence. And so we all have our, and it's a circle of excellence then. So to me, it's like, because we had brought this up, I think it was earlier the meeting on Tuesday or last, we can't remember, but it's like, what are we doing here? What is the essence of this meeting? And to me, it's a circle of collective excellence, from which we all come and we gather, you know, like bees, and we gather our honey and we take them to the flowers we want to pollinate, you know, or however that works. Anyway, I don't know if I said that quite right, but you get what I mean. And so to me, this is the nectar collector here, where we come in and share the best, because even though I really do a lot of jousting with Cesare, I'm probably learning more from him than anybody else right now, because he's so different than most people that I'm. And I've tended in the past at times, unless I was in a really good drinking mood one night and met him in a bar and he was already drinking, I wouldn't, you know, because then I could find interesting ways to have a conversation with a guy who's so brilliant like Cesare is, but also just so, you know, immovable in that brilliance. So I respect that. I think that's something that everybody should have, that immovable brilliance in the sense of their connection with their truth, because that's where it belongs, you know. And so I really I admire the way Cesare can stand behind his truth. I haven't seen him budge once since I've met him. So that to me is something worth respecting, you know, and I'm glad that you come to these meetings, Cesare, because that's something I'm learning from you. And so it's always, no matter how different it is, you know, it's like how much I need to bring my witness, and remember that I'm not here to shove something down somebody's throat. I'm here to mirror as best I can what's in front of me, and maybe I can learn something from it. And so to mirror Cesare, it's like there's some powerful stuff in there. So, you know, in places where it's different for me, I'm learning to receive. And then in the places where I have a natural talent, I'm learning to put myself out. And I think that's one of the qualities of a circle of collective excellence, you know, where you can learn when to be receptive and then also when to bring out your, you know, what you have to share that can benefit others. Because I think everybody has that in them anyway, even if I think it's just a recognition, you know, it's just that people can recognize, instead of me trying to be right and say, no, I got the best, you know, and we all do that at times when we get a little too lost in our ego. But when I can back off that in myself and just open up and say, you know, I'm here to learn, and I'm with a very diverse group of people. Everybody in this group is incredibly different from everybody else, which I really love. It makes it so rich. You know, I can't think of one person that's even remotely like any other person in who I'm looking at here. And everybody's got, you know, an incredible power in that sense, you know, of our uniqueness. So anyway, that's just, you know, a circle of collective excellence. To me, that's what this space is. I don't care if we ever define it or not, but I see when I come here, that's what I got to bring. I got to be on my A game, you know, not just in terms of what I bring, but also in terms of my capacity to learn and receive too. Like from Cesare, who's my greatest teacher right now in this space, because he's just so immutably himself with his truth. And so there's got to be something in that. And so I'm just going to keep taking it in and, you know, and sift through it all. And I know there's going to be good stuff in there. So thank you, Cesare.
Yeah, and you know, just like the collective superintelligence will facilitate people to kind of find their own little school of fish, and sometimes you just want to find people who are like you so you can get together and develop that thing that all of you really like. Other times it makes sense to find your opposite, right? Kind of your opposite community and go hang out there and go, ooh, ooh, ugh, ugh, all right, I'm gonna white knuckle it. I'm just gonna hang in there. Right, and maybe the first meeting you do nothing but walk away frustrated, right? And maybe you come back and you come back, and anyway, everything's possible. Everything is possible with collective superintelligence. We need to keep mashing it up, mixing it up from every angle, until we discover. See, Dharmendra, you're discovering Cesare. That's changed your life. With Cesare in your world, you're now different. You're like, whoa, you know, I hadn't seen that before. There's got to be something there. Now it's like life is now like a new mystery novel for you that it wasn't before, right? And so it for me, it's like intuitively obvious at this point. It wasn't always that way, but at this point, it's intuitively obvious to me that we are in a place where in order, hey, Denise, welcome. Good to see you. It's intuitively obvious to me that we're in a place where to get out of this mess, we need to keep doing a lot more of this, mixing it up, mashing it up of different perspectives. One thing I love about Denise is she's a butterfly, and she goes from, she's connected to all these different groups, so she's helping to really cross-pollinate, which is super awesome. Anyway, we're kind of having an open discussion, Denise, about the world that we want, right? And differing philosophies are coming into a delicious collision, is how I would describe it, right? So anyway, feel free to jump in.
I got to leave soon, so I'm just going to do an ending comment. So based on what I've experienced today, it's like as we grow up and we get conditioned, and that perfectly smooth, harmonious, flowing, streaming, luminous, you know, embracing aura of ours starts to get spots where it gets a little denser and darker and tighter, and certain areas start to develop these anomalies, right? We call them traumas or whatever, but it literally happens like that in our energy field. If you really pay attention, and out of a lot of, you know, awareness training, you can literally feel when somebody's hitting one of those knobs in you, right? And what I see is, and the only reason I said that is because what I see is in this scenario, this circle of collective excellence, where everybody's here to bring their A game. Every single one of us sooner or later is going to get, if we can hang with this, and I think this is going to be a really miraculous collective eventual exfoliation of all of our incredible gifts into the world in ways we can't even imagine yet, because we allowed ourselves to get exposed in all our little nodules by things that might have at first seemed a little uncomfortable, but what they actually were places where we could be lit up in ways we didn't know we could be lit up by people who have lit it up there in ways you've never looked to light it up in that way. And so now you get this incredible favor of somebody like I've been doing with Cesare, where I'm going, look, this guy's obvious. And I'm doing it to him too, because but it's like there's places in me where it's a little denser, it's a little slower, the light, it's not as receptive to the light and the sacred geometries of the mental that are being, you know, channeled through the causal, you know, according to my Buddhic centering, you know, that just need a little nudge or a little bit of energy or a little something, a little swirl, a little mix of something. So for me, the true test in creating this circle of collective excellence is to just keep allowing that to happen. like rocks when you put them in a one of these polishing machines. It just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning until everything's smooth and crystal clear and luminous and glowy, to get my aura back to like it was as a child again. But now as an adult, with all my skills and understandings and everything I've gained from my years, decades of life. So I just kind of want to end for me on that note as I shift into another part of my day, that this has been a wonderful meeting, because it's helped me to see what we've been working on over the last week or two is, what the hell are we doing here? Well, one of the things I'm going to offer without question is we are definitely creating a circle of collective excellence, in which all of us have the opportunity to bring our A game, and all of us have a chance to grow by being confronted by very different types of viewpoints. And instead of reacting and closing down, we go, okay, how can I grow through this? So it made me see a couple of things about Cesare today that I really admire in anybody, somebody that can be immovable in their truth. I don't care if he's right or wrong. It's more important that he stands behind it like that, because who am I to judge whether he or anybody else is right or wrong? He's not hurting anybody. So that's the only right or wrong I can see. Otherwise, he's standing immovably in his truth, and he's going, this is where I'm at with this. And you're not going to move me from it. And so, and that's what I see. To me, that's a beautiful quality. That's like a diamond. So that's something that is going to be incorporated in what I do in whatever way it works for me. Because it's all, every quality is ours for the open to. It's not like we're separate from any quality and I have to earn that. All I have to do is pay attention in this collective scenario, keep my aura open, and let those things come in and hit those places in me that need to be sped up a bit, so they can reblend and become smoothed out and become an integral part of my aura again, that functions and works, instead of being a fixated belief or idea that I don't want to like. Those are all fixated, dead, stuck places in my aura where no energy is moving. So just a little, I'm just sharing a little bit about how our energy, it's our astral body, our emotions, how that works, literally like water. That's actually literally how it works. Anyway, just so much fun to be here today, and a special thanks to you, Cesare, as my great teacher for the day. And until we meet again, I bid you all fondue.
Thank you, Dharmendra. And Dharmendra, just so you know, it's Cesare. Accent on the second syllable.
Well, I appreciate that, but I asked him, and when I said it, however I said it, he was okay with it. But
Okay.
I do appreciate what you're trying to help educate. Thank you, Jamie.
Sure.
I do want to be respectful to how people want to be called to. Bye.
Great to see you, Dharmendra. Thanks so much, brother. We'll see you soon. And remember, we're here till 6 a.m., so feel free to swing back in.
I might, if I feel like doing some late night partying, I'll find you guys here.
I'm telling you, this is the place.
I'll be in a different mood then, though, so just be prepared.
Hey, come as you are.
Bye.
All right, love you, bro. See you soon.
About my name real quick, it's funny because it's there are many different ways to pronounce it. In Polish, it's Cesare, where the accent is on the second to last syllable. But the Polish is originally from Italian, Cesare. And so if somebody pronounces it more like an Italian speaker would, then I'm not going to correct them when they pronounce the accent where it would be in Italian, So it's like they're pronouncing it the Italian way or the Polish way. It's going to be different. So,
Yeah, I have experience with that. When I went to live in Spain when I was 14 years old in 1982, apparently no one had ever there had seen or heard of the word Jamin before, but everyone had heard of Jimmy. Oh, there's Jimmy Carter, Jimmy Connors, Jimmy. So I just became Jimmy, and I'd try to correct people. But then it finally became like a big tidal wave, and here I am trying to hold it back with my surfboard. Forget it. So I just rode the wave as Jimmy. So anyway, I'm hip. Wow.
Yeah, my name is James as well, but I'm known here locally in Cork as Jamesy. So even though my mother referred to me as Jamie when I was born, but that just grew into James, but I'm known as Jamesy on the street. That's where all my friends knew me as. But I have a friend here as well from Poland, and his name is Cezary as well. And I pronounce it in the Polish pronunciation, Cezary. But most people just call him Caesar here because they can't get the pronunciation right. And he's cool with that because he says a lot of people do call him Caesar. But Cezary Ozumbuski, I think is, if I'm getting his surname right. I'm probably doing that some injustice though.
How long have you guys been here now?
We are 10 hours into a 24-hour block party.
Wow. And you, James, are the one who's staying here the whole time, or who else is staying here the whole time?
All night long. Well, everyone's welcome to stay all night long, but I am committed to being here. Now, Nolan, who's usually here, has some other stuff that he needed to take care of. And if and when he comes back and is willing to hold the fort, I may get a nap in at some point, but if I don't, that's cool too. There's always coffee, and I've got most of a cigar left as well.
I just want to comment real quick. That was a really cool exercise, Jane, and I think that really made us explore some things in a different way.
Thank you. And just to fill in, Denise, I think I may have mentioned this. We've just been exploring a very open conversation. What is the world we want? Forget about if it's practical. How would we get there? Well, that's it. No, none of that. Just an open brainstorm. What do we want? Fun. Yeah, and we can rock on if you like to continue.
Can I ask you a question? Was it like the world you want to see outside or inside, or all of it, like in your life or in the world, like, together? Like what did you have a specific focus, or was it all over the place?
It was there was no bounding to it, but the way it evolved, it was mostly the world outside. Like, I want a world where children can just be free and explore, and they're not constrained, and they're safe and all that, right? Well, I want a world where everyone has, ample nutrition. Well, I want a world where there are, there's no violence, things like that. And then we kind of get into it a little bit here and there. Cezary said, I want a world where there's armies to defend, right? To defend this world that we're creating, and lawyers to defend it too, armies of lawyers and all that. And then somebody said, well, I want a world where there are no armies and there is no military. So, but for the most part, it was just like, this is what I really want in my heart, right? For the world. Dharmendra, who just left, he told us about an experience where he lived for a small number of years, essentially on a commune where they were building a city on something like 40 square miles or something like that. And there was no money, no currency. Everyone just worked. There was no pay. Everyone ate. And they were creating this sort of utopia. And after describing so many things about what he was describing, I was like, that's the world I want. And so I said that.
But you know what's interesting, because I'm still in this mindset of that exercise, and I'm thinking about Denise's questions when she's coming here. And in a way, like, imagine there was a group of us and we built this world together. For whatever reason, we found ourselves together and we started building this world. And then all of a sudden somebody does come in from the outside. And how do we treat this person? How much of our history and our narrative, how do we go about communicating that to her? And so it's like, in a way, the experiment is still continuing. Like, to me, in my head, it's still kind of, we have this newcomer, and like, how do we bring her into this new world? Do we bring her into this new world? Do we want her in this new world? She doesn't know what we've been through. How is she ever gonna know? So we have to come up with mechanisms for bringing new people in if we want them. And it's interesting because some societies have absolutely set out, there are societies like this in the world who are completely ideologically closed off, maybe for whatever reason. They've decided that they will not bring anyone in. And like anthropologists, a lot of these cultures have been very close to outsiders. And some of these cultures, it took them maybe years of trying to establish a communication before they could go into the society and explore it. And there are some that still people are executed the moment, I mean, obviously they're pretty primitive cultures. So if we went in there with guns, we could just take them out and well, but that's not the point of studying that. It's not actually it's exterminating the culture, but it's not really being accepted into it and seeing it from the inside. So yeah, some cultures just really have a rule: no outsiders. And that's an interesting question that Denise forces us to consider with her own just very mere presence.
And by the way, Denise, we're just kind of flowing here, so just jump in and share whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts came in for that. Well, this is my first block party, so I just arrived. So it's cool to know what you guys are talking about and stuff like that. It's all focused on who's speaking at the time too. It's not like it's a real block party where we can have 2 people over there and 3 people over there and one by themselves going like, where do I belong? We're all kind of like listening to the one person. So you guys just kind of had like a community forum of creation. And then I coming in with like, oh, I'm excited about this community for, whatever my ideas are. And I definitely have some ideas because I think we're all in creation mode on some level. So you guys just had like a group creation mode, sounds like. And I'm coming from the space of like, yes, brainstorming is great. I've been brainstorming a long time, and I really love the brainstorm of what we see the new story is for the world. And activation, how do we activate? So like, is there any particular piece that really rang out and came through for you guys that for activation? And then why I would go to a party is for networking, so like I can activate what I'm wanting to create, because I have a lot of vision, but also to enhance the vision, to bring the collective mind to it. So I mean, for me, I like to have organized kind of parties, because then things can come of it, like talk philosophical, like, hey, what are we making in this world? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you want to feel that way? And where all kinds of I like making direction and focus and navigation. So I don't know.
Well, feel free to bring that here. It's true, we are all in one room, so different from a party. Now, the original vision, and it still remains the vision of the block party, is that we go parallel, right? That we go multiple, so we have multiple different spaces. We haven't gotten there yet.
I see.
Yeah, but that is the vision, is really make it like a block party where there's lots of different places to go and different energies and different foci and different whatever, right?
So that might still come through in the, okay, we've got this and we've got that. So, but then are we just the own recorders? Like, are we, like, how is it gonna, I guess, organically happen that things start happening? Like for me, I would personally like to know from each one of you what you're working on creating. Maybe to give me the most beautiful moment of the last thing that you just brainstormed about what you'd like to see in the world, and then how you are a participant in making that happen, or how you might, and how your capabilities and your passion might be able to be brought to that, or is already being brought to that. I think that would be a beautiful way, if I can say, suggest for us to go into it now since I'm here, because I want to facilitate action and know what other people are into, and see if there's anyone who's into what I'm into, and if we can link and network and create, because it's time to make.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, I'm happy to jump in, but I'd kind of rather let someone who hasn't spoken too much lately jump in and share first, before me anyway. Or Denise, feel free. I'll just put it out there. And if nobody speaks in half a minute, then I'll jump in.
It's kind of funny for me to jump in because I wasn't there for the rest of it, but we're all kind of in a space together. That's kind of what, like, I'm like, I'm going to find someone to help me with this particular thing at the block party, maybe. So.
Denise, tell me what you do, like in a minute, and kind of like what you do and what your interests are. I'm just curious what kind of work, what your visions are.
You can say I'm not the in a minute kind of person. I'm not simple at all. I'm a Renaissance woman that dips into everything, and I bridge worlds. So, but I'm very particularly interested in health and wellness, and how the mind works. So I call the technology of self and the multimedia or metamedia of our bodies. So like I want us to be in a higher resolution and higher resonance, kind of like what Dharmendra was talking about. I'm very much into the conduit that we are and the bonds and agreements that we have energetically with each other. I've also worked in technology, developing exchange ways, you know, as a visionary designer, I guess, interface designer for a think tank. And they had this huge model of how the new world would work in the virtual reality and futures and stuff like that. So they were asking me to help build it out and design it, but I had a specific idea. It started with villages, and then it went into identity and privacy and personal intellectual property, and you know how we can keep our information safe so that people don't start tapping into us and like making us robotic and yes, I agree with you and you know, so we can stop being fake and so that we can be more authentic. It was actually the name of the company was called the Authenticity something. I might say the rest later because that would like research online. So you know, I'm very much, they were into the authenticity of exchange digitally, and I'm very much into the authenticity of exchange physically, emotionally, spiritually. So that includes the energy body, the bioelectromagnetic of the bodies, the neurobiology, and how that all is in kind of the invisible sphere of emotions and feeling and experience and vibration. The name of my company was Vibe Science, so it's like the science of vibration and vibology, and I've just been testing myself. So I think my minute is up, but I'm very interested in helping people get there as I get myself there as well. I do guided meditations, I do music, I dance, I do workshops, but I also design, and I know how to strategize and create interfaces, and I envision new worlds all the time. I'm that person who, I'm like kind of like crazy scientist, like how about this, how about this, how about this? I wake up every morning like thinking of 5 articles to write, and I just need an entire company to let's make some really cool things I've been envisioning for 20 years, and I just feel like I can feel what we need as humanity. And I've also seen my designs go from people thinking I'm ridiculous to like the top chart, most of like everything that everyone wanted, like time and time and time and time again. But I've kind of been holding myself back, you know, as a visionary, or like many of us are. We get laughed at for having a vision because it's not in the state of where we're at now in consciousness. So when visionaries come together with visionaries in bridging the worlds that we have vision in, and where we specifically are very passionate about, like me, I really want the health and wellness of the energy bodies of the people. And I want that through technology, through sound, through music, through feeling, because I want that. That's my most passionate thing I have, and it comes from a source of pain, actually, that I'm trying to create into bliss and love and excitement, and that life is freaking cool and it's worth living. Make an enchanted new earth. That's what I'm all about. I've like started to write like many books, started talk shows, started meetups, started parties, started companies, you know, but I've also been telecommuting a lot and not knowing how to get out there. So this is actually a really nice time for me to try to find my people through the internet, at least, because in the dance world, a lot of people are not technology oriented, or the art world, so or science oriented, or they are, and I'm not meeting them. It's just, I think, you know, like minds coming together to create realities that we love, I'd like to see. And those are the beautiful contracts and bonds that we can have with the conduits of our energy, our prana bodies, that connect to what we love rather than what we disagree or is disharmonious, come into harmony. So I think that was what, 5 minutes? Sorry, not so good at being short.
No, it was beautiful. It was
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. Love it. Love it. And you have come to the right place. Welcome home,
Okay.
Denise.
Cool, thanks. And on the more particular thing this morning, I woke up like I'm doing a lot of guided meditations and I'm getting deeper into the space. But I just spent an entire week trying to edit and get this one meditation up, that I did at new moon. It's been now 9 days. It's still not up. I'm just like struggling with my computer. I'm struggling with my software programs. I also had to move and this is a whole new arrangement right here. This chair I got 2 days ago, this like my life is totally changing. So like, wow, I have a chair to sit and talk to people and online now, which is really cool. But I'm just, how can I get this stuff out there is what I'm trying to see, because people have been asking me to teach for a long time, and I was always I had been in a fear state with that for a long time due to what traumas were in my network that I'm now releasing. And so now it's just how do I really make this easy for me to bring my material out into the world.
Beautiful. And I want to welcome Andrew Terry, if you've come to the right place, and if not, no problem. But we have had kind of an interesting flurry of visitors who came for some other reason other than why we're here. So Andrew, are you here for the block party? Just checking. Does anyone recall, was that Andrew, the one who came before, who had that mask on? Yes, okay. All right. All right, so I had to say goodbye to Andrew. We've had a bunch of people who've come in and disrupted. I don't think that it's anything necessarily particular to us. It's kind of a thing that's happening in the Zoomosphere, so I have to kind of play goalie here a little bit. Anyway, sorry for interrupting you, Denise. Please carry on.
Oh, I think I had been, that was like the fine. I guess my dream, I dream of having a group of people that I may work with so that I can create this media and technology for healing and health and feeling good of the people. And I've been thinking about it for 20 years. So I have like entire systems, like a few systems that I've built, being a strategist, technology strategist, interface designer, but as well entrainment systems, as well as music, dance, scripts, movies, everything. So just hoping to really create some of this beautiful life experiences with some core team who are interested.
Well, I'm interested for sure. And
okay, cool. So I guess that's like, what do we each have?
Oh, Denise,
building a team.
Sorry, you muted for a second there, Denise.
This is my first time on the phone with this. I'm usually on the camera, on the computer, so I'm figuring out where the buttons are. It's slightly different than the computer. So.
Sure, very good, very good. All righty. Well, Emery has his hand up. Go for it, Emery.
Thanks, Jimmy. Just to respond to Denise. I'm reaching 65 next month, so I'm more or less retired. I'm an artist. I've been for 35 years there in stained glass, and did a lot of creative work and installations and whatnot, and musician, pianist. So I come to this, to look for solutions to better the conditions that we're facing here on the planet, and better late than never. And I still hold out that we can get something done, even though I am with the belief that we're more or less near-term human extinction, sad to say. And I also believe that Fukushima was an extinction level event. Unfortunately, I'm not a believer in nuclear technology, and I don't think it's going to help save life on Earth. And I'm a libertarian more or less. I do think that Trump should be allowed to lead the United States. People elected him, so I'll just leave it at that. And whatever I can do, I like making videos and stuff. So wherever I can be helpful in promotion, I'm glad to do it. So, well, stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Emery. Who would like to share next with emphasis on those who haven't shared lately? Love to hear from everyone. But no pressure. There's never any pressure to speak or be put on the spot. All righty. Well, I will share. Part of kind of at the heart of my personal sort of mission and dream is literally millions of meetings, gatherings like this one, millions, tens of millions, no limit, the more the better, which are also open. See, this is an open meeting. Anyone can join, and that's part of why I've got this goaltending challenge now that we've got these Zoom hackers. But I really believe in open meetings where anyone can join, and they can be on any topics with any kind of focus. And so part of my dream, my vision is, if you imagine a giant taxonomy of topics, right? Not necessarily hierarchical, parent, child, or anything, but just a networked, connected toposphere of topics. Imagine conversations around each and every one of those topics and around all possible combinations or mashups or intersections of topics. If some people want to get together and go off about Keynesian economics, more power to you. If you want to get together and talk about spirituality, philosophy, whatever, go for it. If you want to talk in practical terms, how do we cool the planet in time in the face of exponential overheating, right? Great. So as specific as you want to go, or as broad as you want to go, and with whatever, culture, even rules for the conversation, highly intensely mediated conversation, moderated conversation with 60-second timers. If that's the kind of meeting you want to have, go for it. So I'm all about plurality in the conversational domain. And we posit that to the extent that we develop this conversational domain and make it searchable, discoverable, make it easy for people to find those conversations that they want to jump into. To the extent that we have this very fluid, very dynamic, very frictionless conversational domain, conversation sphere, we can both find those like-minded people, like-minded, like-hearted, who want the same thing that we want, and we can all get together and do it, right? Likewise, we may want to get together with people who think very differently, even opposite to what we think. And we may want to get together and either debate with them or have a constructive conversation to see what kind of synthesis we can co-create, et cetera. So basically, one of my big dreams is this conversation sphere developing. And one of the purposes of the block party is to create a space where anyone and everyone can come and kind of touch base, that it's sort of like this safe home base for collective intelligence, both the study and development of collective intelligence and its application to specific problems or opportunities. So, to the extent that we do it well, that we're successful at it, this can even become sort of like a hub and connect to myriad other conversations, since it is such a big target, 24 hours long and so open and inclusive. And part of the original vision was that we would then spawn, and welcome back, Miles, good to see you, that we could spawn myriad parallel conversations that are all under the big tent of the block party. And for a while there, I was kind of thinking, yeah, that's the way to go. We'll just keep spawning different conversations from within and keep branching out that way. But a big epiphany I've had in the last couple of weeks is that, wait a second, all these conversations are popping up all over the place anyway on their own, organically. And whoa, there's this huge opportunity to connect them in some efficient, intelligent, effective way. And so I dream of a Google of the conversational domain. I dream of a Facebook of the conversational domain. In fact, that's one of the things we're creating slowly, but we call it Snack Bar, where snack is SNAC, and it stands for the social network of actual conversations, which is my way of saying conversations where we get real with each other and we talk about what we really want and what we really feel, and we talk about our dreams. Anyway, that's all I have to say for the moment, and really encourage others to jump in and share, as this is the magic of us just being real with each other and sharing our dreams. Thank you.
I'll share. So my name's Miles Flagg, and I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, also known as Mokinstis or Gutsi. I'm not perhaps saying that correctly in the Tsuut'ina Nation language. But you can also point to your elbow if you're saying in First Nations languages, they use a lot of sign language, and that tells people that you're going to the to Mokinstis, or the elbow, where two rivers come together. So I'm just always absorbing things that are happening here in the block party, or in the past it was the social club at the end of this world, which then became the social club at the beginning of the new world when Dr. Rao came by. And then Dr. Rao, he converted me from being a bacon and beef lover to vegan, almost vegan, let's just say that. So, and just eavesdropping, whether I'm listening to you talking on, you guys talking on YouTube, or whether I actually come into the conversation, I'm learning things and it's shaping me. So, for example, just in the previous conversation, when Jackie started talking about the importance of the children being at the foundation of our value system, that was like, oh, wow, boom. Now, I've heard it before, because in my studies of learning about my Indigenous neighbors, which is just sadly to say, only maybe in the last 5 years, seriously pursuing learning about the Indigenous wisdom, I learned that they have this concept of the seven generations, which Jackie was referring to. And I have a little piece of artwork that I don't know, one day some years ago, after talking to somebody who has been teaching me about the work of Carl Jung, he said, get artistic, do something artistic. And so I just picked up a pen and I started doing these symbols and almost, you could say, icons. And then I arranged them into a circle after thinking, I shouldn't just be so linear, I should put them in a circle. But anyway, the concept of hearing this conversation about the children, once again, made me think of this piece of work, or this doodling, shall we say, that I did, And I'm now realizing, okay, that's what that means. So I do now believe that things come up from the unconscious. And sorry.
Oh,
Oh, I think Cesare might not have realized his mic.
Is mic's on?
sorry about that.
That's all right.
No problem. So let me conclude. I just love the energy Denise has, because I saw her by watching a recording that was posted on YouTube, I guess, from your Solution Club. And I thought, wow, is she ever interesting? And then, she presents her Facebook handle, and I popped in to take a look, and the amazing art, like all these photos and creations that she's got on there. So like, wow, so impressive. So I sort of feel like I already know you, even though you don't know me. But I will conclude by sharing this. This is a piece of art that my daughter actually produced. It's a bird over a river, and it's a Father's Day card that she made for me. And on the inside, what I've done, getting back to Carl Jung, I wrote in his definition of God. And I'll share that with you and conclude with this. So again, this is Carl G. Jung's definition of God. God is the name by which I designate all things which cross my willful path violently and relentlessly. All things that upset my subjective views, plans, and intentions, and change the course of my life for better or worse. And I credit Skip Conover and his Carl Jung Depth Psychology reading group for providing me that. But so all of you are crossing my path, I'm crossing your path, and we're changing each other. Hopefully we come here and we're friends, and we'll stay friends. So it's not necessarily, it's not going to be one of these things that violently cross our willful path, but friends cross our willful path as well. So, but we do have to acknowledge the trauma of our lives, and that's part of God too. That's the definition. Says there's going to be things that are upsetting and troubling, like the meat and dairy virus, COVID-19. We have to deal with this. It's God too. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Miles. All right, and welcome Rigo, who just joined us. We're kind of having an open sharing of kind of who we are and what we're interested in. So feel free to jump in. And likewise to everyone here. No one's in the queue at the moment, so feel free to, how's it going, Rigo? Feel free to just jump in and share.
I don't know what you guys are talking about, but greetings.
Hey, Rigo. Great to see you. We're just kind of having an open sharing. We were talking for a couple hours about the world that we want, right? And that was a very open conversation. We were just kind of brainstorming and putting a bunch of stuff out there. And that was really beautiful and inspiring. And now we're sharing more kind of on a personal level. What am I up to? What do I want to achieve personally? What am I wanting to get involved in? What am I wanting to work with other people on? Just who am I and what am I up to? That kind of thing. Though I think Denise framed it a little better, so feel free to edit that. Okay.
You did fine, but it would be kind of cool to maybe write these questions down, or I don't know, have them every time someone new comes in, or make it part of the conversation.
Yeah. Totally.
I'll go really quickly. I don't remember all the questions, so I think I'll just say, so my vision is, for what I want is to create, like I said earlier, a sustainable world where children can actualize their own potential and actualize their own divinity in their own way, and for adults to understand that that's sacred time of development of children, and to see them as our gurus and create an environment for them to flourish. How do we do that on the macro level? My vision is to actualize Sailesh Rao's vision, Dr. Will Tuttle's vision of a conscious world, of normalized nonviolence, of radical inclusion, of the 7 core shifts where humanity evolves along with Mother Earth into the caretaker species, that we see all of the unity and break out of the illusion of this 3rd dimensional world where governs our minds, and our minds govern our behaviors, or our brains govern our behaviors. Sorry, the truck going by. And on the micro level, I co-founder of a social justice education nonprofit, and my work is to bring this knowledge and this wisdom into our Black and brown communities, our underfunded communities, our marginalized communities. We have several projects going on right now where we're bringing this message of the 7 core shifts and everything that it entails. We are working with 3 group homes with children that are severely traumatized and are not in the foster care system, but they need more specialized care. So we're bringing this message of healing on the mind, body, spirit healing to these group homes to work with these traumatized children. We're also starting the Foundation for Positive Change, which is an alternative to reincarceration for children between 16 and 18, to bring STEM and this wisdom and an elevation of consciousness so they can go back into their communities and be interrupters of violence and be recruiters of higher consciousness, and be that vessel that through us, they raise their own consciousness and then they go in and ripple out into their own communities. And we're also working on a social justice summit that we were hoping to do by the summer, where we're bringing activists, where prison abolitionists, people that work for civil rights, people that work for food justice, everyone that works on this mission that includes the 7 core shifts will come and speak on this 7 to 8 day summit. So we're working on that right now. And hopefully, if anyone knows Angela Davis, put in a good word for us, because I'm reaching out to her. So but it's like people like that can speak to these, the social injustices, and help us all see that these are all one social injustice that are manifesting in different ways depending on the community. But it's all about oppression. And if we can make that connections and help people see those connections, then we won't continue to fight on the battle. We'll see that we're all fighting different battlegrounds, but it's one war and we can work together.
That was quite an endorsement by your doggy there, Jackie.
Sorry, you just started right now.
No, I love it.
I think that's really beautiful. Thank you for doing that work. And I would just love to talk with you just a moment, like privately, to talk to you about how my work might assist these children. What kind of format might be interesting. Because I was one of those children that was traumatized. So that's why I'm been coming through this healing for a long time. So that's definitely possibly one of the audiences that I might be able to reach out to. I'm not sure. I've been working more with adults, the adults that are not activated in their lives and want to be because of past trauma. So if we can nip it in the bud while they're still children, like I can think about all the things that I could have had, and how as a healer, what I would have wanted to know as a child. And I'm sure there's like every child, something's gonna work for them differently. So I have a lot of things in the program. And also I have some friends who work in some of those worlds that you're talking about or are interested or have. So how could I link? Like maybe I'll see if they can come in, or if that's when these separate meetings are going to start happening or something like that. So if we can all just remember for and with each other, who can possibly be linked with each other, I think that would be really cool, because now I know what you're doing and I can think about others, but like how to make it easy to invite them in and then have those separate conversations scheduled but then that's where we have our priority list, and that summit sounds really exciting and stuff. So you can start inviting people in for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for offering about the children, because these children are in such a delicate situation because of the level of trauma that they've experienced, that they cannot go back home. A lot of these children are protected, and also because they're in survival mode. So their brain and, you know, their primitive brain is on high alert. So your work with the fields, the energy fields, it's like, that's exactly what I was thinking. So thanks. We need to meet separately, please. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you both.
Yeah, I know that world pretty well, and how it makes you an incapable person in humanity. You just can't do what you need to do if you're like darting around like in PTSD. Like they talk about how, you know, the best example of people who have lived in PTSD is war veterans, because they're always looking like there's a bomb. Well, people who've been traumatized are always looking for someone to attack them, and you know, and how you approach the entire world like that. And when you're a child, and that's where your network of being starts from, it's so, like, if you're an adult, so much more difficult to go back and shift that. But it's possible. And it's also possible to really help the children know somehow where their foundation is. I think it's the most important thing, is knowing where your core center is from and what you can connect to. And I think that's why a lot of people are so religious, because God helps ground them and center them. I center personally around love, and my spirit, but I also have a very strong spirit, and I'm able to bring that through. A lot of people might not, because they don't have the capability to actually access that, because they never had the foundation of who they could be in the first place. So, and the fragmentation, so centering and you know, gathering the fragments and keeping those different personalities or different onion layering or ways of looking at the life is what is needed all around in humanity, all around. Everyone's traumatized, really. The levels are different and in different situations and things like that. So that's what I think that the core thing that we're doing right now is to release the wounding and come into love, source, God, you know, where that center is, centering around something that really matters, the spirit of humanity, thriving life on earth, and how we personally thrive or choose to thrive, as opposed to be victimized or in pain or sorrow or blame, shame, all of that. It's just time for humanity to release all of that, and especially these traumatized children, because then they're out in society not knowing how to relate, and they're relating with each other in ways that are not healthy. And that's just what a world we have, a lot of it going on right now. So I really hope to see that shift in a more beautiful place. And I know I think it's happening. I really believe that we're not going towards extermination, and that this is a mass moment right now where we are actually coming into a higher resolution of resonance and harmony in humanity. This is what people like me, who was like, for so long, like, life is scary, but like, I feel like at the core of everyone is a heart, a beautiful spirit somewhere. And maybe some people say maybe not everyone, but I see that. And so just tapping into that and helping people center from that space that matters to them, that really matters. Do you want to die, or do you want to not die? That's the choice that we have right now. That's we're all facing, like, oh my God, is it worth it to kill those people by taking their money or stealing their food? Or, you know, I think people are coming to this point of like, well, if the whole world is dying, then I'm not going to thrive. So people are starting to think about how they can actually bring thriving to the world right now. Like, and thriving from the inside is really a healthy pranic body, healthy energy, healthy chi. And then we connect with each other on that level. And that's what I really believe is happening. And for me, it's really no choice. It's like either believe in thriving or believe in extinction. And I much prefer believing in thriving. So I'm going to do whatever I can to live from that core. And that, for me, that is also love. So I don't know if love is necessarily that for everyone, but that's my religion. Thriving life, light, and love, comforting love. So wherever that's not in my system due to whatever happened to me or whatever, I can't blame. I can just shift myself right now, no matter what the shame, whatever, whoever did whatever to me. It's after a while, you're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not living in me anymore because I believe in a thriving life.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. And welcome back, Melissa. And please jump in.
Can you hear me okay? Does that come through okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. I'll let you know if it's otherwise.
Wow, Denise, you are on fire. I love hearing what you have to say. It's like Jackie's got a twin. Two goddesses. Woo, woo, look out, world.
Well, look who's talking, Melissa, and please keep talking.
So I wanted to say while I was listening to you, Denise, the word that came to me was resiliency. And I think what's interesting about this time is it's allowing us and asking us to come in touch with our innermost essence and beingness. And what it's done for me personally is it's reminded me about how resilient I am and how entrepreneurial I can be in times of crisis. And so I'm a woman who's, as a child, went through a war in 1974 in Cyprus, been through a coup d'etat. I've been through many, many different things. I've been through domestic violence. I've been through many things. And I'm a survivor of these things. And I'm not a victim of them. And I use my creativity as a resilient tool to help free others from the shackles of conditioning. And so what I find exciting about this time, and I'm sure many of us are finding this, is that the challenge or the call, because of crisis, because of loss, because of restriction, is asking us to come in touch again with our creativity and our hearts and our skills and our gifts. That's a word I like, gifts. To use them for righting wrongs, whether it's stopping species extinction, stopping destruction of the biosphere, educating children in the right way, not as my ex used to say, white, he was Native American, so he'd say, it's the right way we have to practice, not the white way. And I don't mean any harm to anyone who's Caucasian. I'm part Caucasian myself. I get what he meant by that. It's that we have to do things differently. It is understood. And this time of crisis brings us, it's like I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this moment to arrive so that I could employ my gifts to the highest and best purpose of my being here at this time. And that's what I'm hearing both of you. That's what I know from Jamin. Miles, you too. We're becoming empowered to use our gifts in this right way, to restore balance, to bring healing, to restore justice. All these moral codes that we lost, they need to be restored. Yeah, over and out.
Beautiful. Thank you, Melissa. The Divine Feminine is so in the house. I'm just going to mute myself and let you ladies just cruise.
You know, what I love most about what I'm hearing is that how we have enacted that ability to transmute these experiences in ourselves, in our bodies, in our minds. And like these superheroes go, whatever has happened to me, I have the power to transmute all of that and shine it back into the world and heal. I mean, that makes me feel like a superhero to understand that I have the ability to go in my cells, in my muscles, in my central nervous system, and with intention, right? And with wisdom, say, I choose to heal. I choose to take all of those energies that are stuck from trauma, and I choose to heal, and I choose to bring that home and come back to wholeness. And then once I'm here, I choose to be that crystalline light and shine healing out to the world through the filter of our experiences, through the ability of healing, to shine that and reflect that and mirror that into the world and say, I am you and you are me, and look, I did it, and I'm no different than you. It can be done. I am here. I am evidence. So let me show you. Let me hold your hand. We can do this together. Like, how beautiful is that?
Hey, everyone, it's kind of late. I think I'm going to check out.
All right, Cezary. Cezary's in Poland. It's about 9 hours later there. So, and Cezary, you've been quite a trooper and always move the needle here. So feel free to get some sleep and then come back. We'll be here for another 13 and a quarter hours. So,
whoa. Okay.
All right, Cezary. We'll see you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Good night, everyone.
Night. And speaking of late nights, we have four dear friends in Ireland who are here. And I know it's getting late there too, so feel free to chime in when you need. Otherwise, let's keep it flowing. What a beautiful conversation.
I just wanted to share this project that my friend Gillian and I worked on last year, and I may have shown some of you this already. We made 35 miniature hospital beds, and they're made out of upcycled materials. There's another one, they're made out of like potato chip bags, all the sort of single-use plastic that we wove for these, and we made these little handmade pillows. And the 9 pillows in the center of beds are the Morse code ... .. which is for save our ship. And little did I know the coronavirus at that time was going to hit. And I find this really poignant that we made these. It's like we must have been picking up on the vibration or something, you know. It's like save our ship, hospital beds, you know, like look how we treated the earth and where it got us, you know. And I'm just sharing this because I think art is such a powerful vehicle for transmission of messages and intuitions, and to really bring out messages that are pretty kind of hard-hitting, but in a way that allows us to engage in the conversation about these things that we don't like talking about.
Beautiful. That just reminds me of the guided meditation that I was working on this morning. I keep on calling us captains of our vessel or of our own ship as our body, that as a metaphor. And so ... dash ... that's SOS, right? Save our ship. I think that we're having an SOS for our each individual experience. And so I'd love to get some of my guided meditations out, and maybe get, if anyone like to hear them before or after I actually publish, let me know. I think I'm gonna put them on Google Docs and maybe share with like you know, people that I trust before it's edited, if they want to hear, if they want to tell me any suggestions or ideas, or yeah, that was really great, or you know what, don't share that part, or what was that, or that was really cool. I would love some feedback. I'm definitely so just working with that SOS kind of call. Thank you. It's my art. And I think it can help people as well. So how we can bring our art together out there is great to know.
Yeah, I'd be definitely interested. I'll put my email in the chat for you, Denise. And my daughter's been sending me things through Instagram. So Fred Vargas did something with Charlotte Gainsbourg. It's in French, but it's so powerful, and we're going to see if we can get it translated. It's basically saying, you know, look what we've done. We've been so clever. We've had this great life on the planet, but kind of look where it's got us. You know, Mother Earth is saying, are you going to help me now? I need your help. Or are we going to just all die together? And there's this incredible, I can only put it up on my phone. I know Jamie. Which I think is really incredible. You know, the whole comment now on fashion, perfumes, you know, all this luxury commodities that we've been hurting the earth by producing for our own vanity. And what she's saying is egotistical. You know, it's the ego. Egoiste in French is the ego. And it's someone who's egotistical. And I also thought the reference to Europe, you know, with the balconies, because everyone has to stay indoors now, and the only way they can communicate is off their balconies. And there's been in Italy a lot of singing off balconies and things. I just found that really profound. Once we translate the other one, I'll share it with all of you guys, unless you speak French. I can play it if you speak French.
I just jump in and say, although I'm not very artistic, as I said, I've just sort of started to delve into it. I kind of relate to Cesare because he's very logos-minded. I am that way too. But I'd also like to shout out to James and his art. I've been on his Facebook page recently too, and he's an amazing artist. And so, and then, you know, of course, Melissa and I'm thinking Jackie has the art bug too. So we need to maybe carve out, even though I'm not artistic, carve out an art hour or a 2-hour art section in the block party, and people could, you know, present their art. We could tell them, the artists, what is coming up from our unconscious, or the artists could share as well what they were thinking. Thank you.
That's an awesome idea, Miles. And I was going to suggest something similar. I'm waiting until after April 8th because Sailesh is actually going to interview me in my studio and talk about how I'm using art at this time with the COVID-19 virus. So I was just holding off until I did that. One of the things I actually proposed to one of the art galleries that shows my work was to get a bunch of the artists from the gallery and do individual inside the studio, sharing their process and their journey at this time with art. I thought that could be really healing and really powerful. They actually didn't take up the suggestion. They're still in the old paradigm and the old model. So I thought that was interesting. Her comment was, well, I opened this gallery. You know, it's been my lifetime dream to sell art. So I thought, okay, you know, good luck with that. But I love the idea. I think we should do it at some time. If James, are you in, and anybody else? And
Yeah, I'd be into that as well. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't need those people if they're not willing to participate. We could do that ourselves anyway. We are a collective intelligence. We can organize that. And thank you for the compliment, Miles. I appreciate that as well. As I'm speaking now, I might as well continue and just with my introduction. So, like, I mean, I apologize now, Denise. It is Yeah, my name is James, as you can see, James Desmond. I'm from Cork City in Ireland, and I'm an artist. I studied fine art, and I'm just recently finished college, even though I was a mature student. I'm 52 years of age, and my daughter Stephanie is here with me as well there tonight. I suppose what led me to the collective intelligence was that I suppose basically it's because my art is always and always has been, I suppose, revolves around different aspects of culture and society and how we are today as humans, and how we are evolving and where we're going, and asking questions about that. And because I don't see us going anywhere good in our future that we're in at the moment, in the paradigm that we're in now at the moment. And I suppose that's what I try to do with my art, is by getting people to think about those kind of things, I suppose, by through the art. But I'm here because I'm not sure what I can I'm not sure what I can contribute to this forum, in the sense of only being here and giving my input where I feel that I can give some input. But that is what that is what this collective intelligence is about anyway, is just being here. And if you feel you have some input, just give the input, regardless of how little you feel it is, or how insignificant you may think it is. Because sometimes I'm surprised myself by how such an insignificant thing that I thought I was saying resonated so deeply with so many people on this forum. And it happens all the time with each of us when we say something. I'm not sure whether well, I mean, for me, my experience has been like that. With this forum, I feel that I found another family, in a sense, but a family that is willing to lay aside the mundane of life and the distraction of life, and sit down and discuss the more important issues, and with an effort to try and come around with solving them in some way, and if at the very least trying that anyway. So that's why I'm here. And if I can do that through just giving a bit of input, or if I can contribute through my art or in any way, I'm glad to do that. So yeah, that's it. That's basically it. I'm here because I'm concerned for the future of my daughter and my nieces and my grandnieces and nephews, and for my community in general, and for the planet in general. We're all on the one ship. We're all on the one boat, and it's sinking, unfortunately, if we don't do something. So, and we can't do it unless we do it together. So that's why I'm here. Thanks.
I just want to say how grateful I am. And like always, I'm teary-eyed because this is exactly what I've dreamed of. When I first transitioned to veganism and I first learned about the gravity of our food choices, the gravity of what we're doing to our fellow communities, when I learned the social injustices through the experiences of my children, through the pain of being a mom and seeing my children being discriminated against, and realizing on a grand scale what's going on. And then to find this space, I mean, what is manifestation if not this? If not to marry your experiences with your gifts, touch base with your heart and say, how do I learn from this, and how do I do better? How do I change now? How do I protect other children from experiencing what my children went through? And through step by step, and when the universe brings something to you, you say yes, and you're courageous enough to say just yes. And you step forward and forward, and you find your home away from home. You find this community where you just show up and you just feel so much love, because we're all here for the same reason. We're all here because we believe in the vision. We believe in what our hearts are telling us is capable. And we are courageous enough to say, we will do this. Like, how, I don't understand what's more beautiful than that. And I'm just so grateful.
And you know what's so beautiful is the block party is the block party that it is because of you, Jackie. Were it not for you, this would be something else, but it would not be the beautiful block party that our hearts know is possible without you.
As usual, I am a reflection of every person in this room. I'm a reflection of every pre-block party member, and I'm a reflection of that vision that we all, that unified vision that we all hold in our hearts. We're all seeing it in our own eyes, and that's just so incredibly beautiful. And I am grateful to know all of you and to be witness to this time in human history.
Witness and at the source, because right now, sister, you are right at the source. And history depends upon you. History needs you. And we're also, you know, when you mentioned everyone who came before, everyone's a part of the block party, everyone who will be a part of the block party in the future, because we are going to transform our world into one big block party, not just for all people, but for all species. One beautiful block party. And where we look back on pre-2020 and we just kind of like cringe, you know, like remember the time when you were 5 years old and you broke your auntie's vase and you just cringe, right? We're going to look back and cringe on all that we broke, which was a lot. But we're going to take that and say, you know what? Never again. Let's not just transform our world for now. Let's transform it for all time. And now that we're coming together, let's never go apart again. I cannot live without you, right? And you know, I mean that in the brother and sister way, right? You're my sister. We must have been separated at birth. And so now that we're back together again, let's stay together. So for minimum 32 hours of my life every week, 32 hours a week, that's almost a full-time job. I'm here. I am here for all of you, for all of us, holding the space, doing my part. And it's all of us that makes this a block party.
I love it. I love the support and the ideas coming through. And so again, me being the person who's always action oriented, like I've just spent so many years like not grounding and putting my stuff out there. So everything is all about how do we make this happen? And I've also made systems, but like when there is some sort of indexing, like Nolan was talking about that he's a programmer, like is that potentially going to happen? Or you know, like for me, I'm very particular. Actually, there's a group that I am talking to, and they're working with dreams, and I was working on a dream catcher, and they want to bring dreams together, and they're a little bit more secretive about what they're going to be creating, but it sounds very similar to what you're saying, Jamin, that sounds good about this. So, you know, I think that's, and I've then also read about other people, like people want to come together over what they love to create for life thriving. So the sooner we get this going, the better. Like I tend to be, because I'm that butterfly, I drop in a lot of different places and I'm like, oh, maybe this, oh, maybe that, you know, Miss Renaissance Woman, but never, the reason why I don't have a lot of things out there is because I am butterflying and I'm not grounding my creations, and I'm not in any one particular group that I can work with. I'm also very much into specific resonance field. So when it comes to art, I only want to make art that's for the healing of the hearts and the energy bodies of the people. So art's cool, but if it's for healing and health and wellness, I'm there. If it's for any other reason, I have fun. You know, like I'm being very, very I'm still like, I'm definitely like, we can be in this like research kind of phase of like seeking, but there's a time to take that information, that space, the people, the collective, and making the creations. And I think that that's where we've lacked as a society, is that we're not finding our people. We're being sad that we're not with the group. At least this is, you know, there's different categories. That's one that I'm in, is like, I am so eclectic. I am so specific about the resonance. It's not been the easiest. Like I'm an artist and a neurobiologist and, you know, a technologist and all of this. So finding those people that will be intrigued on that wavelength with me, and because I can't create my creations alone, obviously, like something keeps on happening, like where like my computer crashes or my file goes missing, or you know, like literally my stuff caught on fire, you know, a couple of years ago in a California fire, and my bank was hacked 2 years ago, and you know, I was in .com bombs, real estate bombs. So, and this was me being like, I'm the girl, the woman who can do it all by herself, you know, independence, you know, and sorry, it didn't work. And it's still telling me now, the universe, like literally this one file, it's not working. You know, literally I was working on a file and my computer literally crashed and erased it. Like, how many people, your file, like I had the file in 2 places and it got erased in 2 places. So I'm sitting here, is this the artificial intelligence from the future really coming in and saying like, no, you can't do it by yourself. Like, so, or is this really not where I'm supposed to be? Because there's messages, you know, that kind of make sure that you don't go in specific realities and you do in others. And that's where paying attention to your energy body and where you belong. So long story short, how do we get to the resonance that really has us connecting with the tribes and the groups, that we can really orient and create what we want to? Like a lot of people, you know, have college and then they meet their buddies and then they make their company. I didn't have that. And then the companies I was in, the people didn't know what I was talking about for what I want to create. I could talk with them about what they wanted to create, but you know, my resonance wasn't matched. So I think it's about matching resonance. And I think that that's what Brett is creating with his wife and other people on the Infinite World games. I talked to him a little bit about the resonance, and Dharmendra obviously is about that, the resonance of, we talk energy, but it's also just like liking, you know, and that's where Facebook and Google are able to know what our resonance is by what our curiosity is, what our bubble of creation is. How can we action from here? Like I'm probably going to leave pretty soon so that I can actually go and edit my my guided meditation, either the one that I have been trying to edit for a week or the one that I did this morning. Tomorrow there's a global meditation. Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct, and Jupiter is about expansion. Pluto is about the undercurrents and the underworlds. So the underworlds are coming into expansion right now. Like, so all that stuff that we've had in the depths of our heart and the pits of our stomach, like yearning to come forth, is really, really this moment in time. Like it's saying astrologically. So tomorrow is big conjunction day. There's millions of people coming together to meditate on the earth that we want to see. So it's beautiful that you guys did that exercise. But also that's what my meditations are about. So if I can get them out, maybe I can touch some people, or maybe they're just for me. I don't know. But I would really like to get them out there. So I'm gonna probably leave in a few minutes so I can do some work on the computer. Hopefully my computer's in good shape now. I spent a few days taking care of it. So yeah, that's my goal. So I like personally, I don't go to parties very often because they're not goal oriented, and the conversations, depending on the party, might be good or not, you know. So I like meetups and meet groups because you have particular subjects that you're meeting on. So maybe this can already diverge into what those subjects might be. And if there's anyone that would want to start annotating that and saying, okay, there's this group and this person's interested in that, and already putting the likes or the mind map of ideas and collections going forth. I know that I can do that kind of stuff, but I tend to have way too many balls that I'm juggling that I don't want to drop all of them. So, and that's what happens. So that's because I have my hands in so many things. So if we can start being like, this is where I want to add to this collective intelligence. This is where I have time. Maybe we need to find out what the needs are. And I would say that one of them is like noting what the interests of the hearts are and the resonance of it. Like art is one thing, but the type of art is another. So like the depth, and then, healing individuals, children through that are traumatized is another. That's definitely someone I can relate with both of them. But if the art is for healing the children and for the adults that want to come alive, I'm into it. It's very particular. So getting those kind of things, I know that there's like some sort of programs potentially being made, but like simply just even a document that it's a Google Doc with our contacts, or what does someone have a recommendation on how to start creating this format of these groups going off? Because how many meetings can we have per day? How many people can I plug in? How do I, and not only that, how do I start plugging people in? Because you guys find me inspiring, but a lot of people I don't know how to speak to. So, oh, Natalie, do you want to say something before you crash?
Yeah, go ahead, Natalie. Please feel free if you have the energy to say something. If not, no worries. Like I always say, there's never any pressure to talk here on the block party or any of our meetings. Anyway, it'll be great to see you soon, Natalie. Make sure you come after you wake up. And we got a couple of hands up. Miles had his hand up first. I've been itching to. Thanks, Natalie. All right, you have a great sleep, sister, and we'll talk. We'll see you soon. And we'll be going strong for another almost 13 hours. So come back.
Before Denise goes, Jamin, I just been before you go, Denise. Please come and join me and Jackie, if Jackie's okay with that, and Jamin's okay with that, and Mayra, Fridays from 9 until 11. Jackie and I host the Divine Feminine Principle, and I think that would be a very good place for you to come and be a speaker with us. We can explore all of these things. I just want to say one thing for you, just for your own well-being, is that when we are at a high level, and you already know this, I'm sure, and following our path spiritually, if we don't listen to our inner selves and the universe, the slaps get harder, like the stories you've been sharing. So somewhere inside you already know the answers, right? Yeah, I've been there myself. So maybe just slow down and be a little playful for a little while. Take care of yourself. And then please come and join us. I think you would bring a lot to the conversation. Jackie, would you be okay with that? Jackie! Well, she's not listening right now. Or maybe she's,
no,
yeah,
she is.
Down with it.
She gave you a thumbs up.
Next Friday, 9 to 11. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. All right. Thank you for what you shared.
Awesome.
Can you say time zones when you're talking time?
Yeah, all Pacific time. All Pacific. 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time every Friday as part of the block party.